Chapter 534. Within the drill field on the mountain peak, people were discussing in a panic, giving off a maniacal aura. Ling Weizi closed his eyes tightly. After a short while, he barely managed to catch his breath. The death of 400 Cloud Dragon Iron Swordsmen nearly caused him to faint on the spot. However, he was still stronger than Wu Yue, forcefully swallowing a mouthful of blood. "Enough, all of you shut up." When the first two words were said, the many cultivators on the mountain peak didn't react. However, when he spat out the words, Ling Weizi had already used his true qi. It caused one's eardrums to hurt, causing everyone here to be silent. Even if we don't have Dao soldiers, we still have the tens of thousands of cultivators from the various sections. What are you afraid of? Could it be that without our Dao soldiers, our elite disciples and the High Heaven Sect's mountain protecting formation are unable to fight against the Blood Cloud cavalry? His words calmed everyone down. Ling Weizi's gaze was cold as he looked down. The method Song Shengdao used in the past is not bad. We have to try it. Based on what I know, 10,000 years ago, Song Shengdao was heavily injured and didn't have enough grade 6 spirit masters. That was why he attacked when there were less than 300 of them. A flaw is still a flaw. However, with more people, it is harder to solve. We have enough spirit masters today. That Zhongsho's Blood Cloud cavalry only has 4,000. It is easy to break them. Just as he said those words, Yuan Kong saw Zhongsho draw his bow once more. The arrow was aimed at the 200 Qing Xian lightning warriors, a mysterious cloud spirit sect. He couldn't help but suppress it as fresh blood seeped out from the corner of his lips. He knew that the 200 Dao soldiers that were 30,000 feet away from mysterious cloud spirit sect had no chance of winning. His face ashen, Yuan Kong waved his hand and said expressionlessly, "Send the order down. Gather 2,000 disciples and lay out the pinnacle lightning sky formation." Han Nishue was startled, his pupils constricting. "But master, the pinnacle lightning sky formation uses a person's essence blood." After using it, Yuan Kong shook his head and stopped Han Nishue from continuing. "We have no choice. If we can't wipe out the Blood Cloud cavalry today, we won't be able to survive. Our mysterious cloud spirit sect will have no future." Han Nishue was speechless and walked away blankly, following which he noticed that the entire mysterious cloud mountain was still filled with fear. There were even some people who had already despaired when Sky Origin said those words. How did things turn out like this? You shouldn't have lured Zhongsho to the foot of Shao Mountain and annihilated his elites. Marrying Xin Yuan, Irin in front of Zhongsho and humiliating him? Then, Saber Lordly Wu Hui would chop off his head? But why did it become like this? Could it be that he would still lose to that person this time? No, that's impossible. Han Nishue clenched his teeth, his eyes filled with madness. If that was the case, then even if he had to die, he would drag that person with him to the underworld. Draw your bows and shoot. Another 4,200 blood-colored shooting stars rose up from the ground and covered the sky. When the blood arrows exploded out, the sky was like that of the Dowling Wind Warrior. Only flesh and blood were left. After the blood bows shot out, the 1,200 Dao soldiers were totally wiped out. Where the iron hooves stepped, not only did hundreds of thousands of elite cavalry fall into the sand, the hundreds of thousand City Alliance elites placed in front of mysterious Cloud Mountain were also swept away. Within 10,000 feet, all the soldiers who couldn't escape in time all died tragically. Their vital energy and essence energy also merged into the blood mist. The surrounding 3 million strong army was also collapsing and fleeing in all directions. These soldiers were indeed hard to come by elite troops. However, in terms of opponents, Yu Zhong was hard to come by. However, at this moment, the thousands of blood cavalry under him, their eyes gave off a red glow, like a blood flame was burning. Their fighting spirit was getting more and more intense. Their killing intent was also getting more and more intense. Even Zhongsho's heart couldn't help but be affected by this blood cavalry kill technique. Kill. Only by killing living beings could he vent it out. Luckily, he was able to suppress this intent. Suddenly, his brows rose up, looking into the sky, only to see hundreds of Grade 6 spirit masters, protected by many Grade 6 and Grade 7 martial masters, descending and hanging 3,000 feet in the air. Following which, the entire heaven and earth suddenly froze up. Even the blood mist around was the same. Although it could still be used, it was still difficult and started to freeze up. Then, in the next moment, waves of abnormal spiritual energy spread out. Zhongsho was startled. However, when he felt that a portion of the spiritual formation within the blood cloud cavalry armor started to shake, he broke out into a laugh. Spirit summoning technique? So that's the case. As expected, there was a reason why Kongqi's sect fixed the thousands of blood cloud cavalry armor, but couldn't sell them. It seemed like everyone knew about the weakness of the invincible iron cavalry. However, it was a pity that this missing part had already been completed in his hands. Step into the air, Rise. The Grade 6 dragon-horned winged horse under him roared out. As expected, it rose into the air and stepped on the wind. The entire cavalry force followed closely behind and charged into the air, following which, along with Zhongsho, a total of 4,252 halberds. They all slashed down. Bloodlight flashed, and all the spirit masters in the air were swept clean. The corpses of the other martial masters were all trampled into pieces by the dragon-horned winged horses. In that instance, the mysterious Cloud Mountain Hall was deathly silent once more. Ling Weizi's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Tightly clenching his fists, his expression startled. This blood cloud cavalry actually had no weaknesses. It was like it had been fixed, perfect and flawless. Suddenly, he thought about something, his eyes filled with rage as he stared right at Long Ruo. In that instance, Long Ruo felt his body turn cold. He thought back to before he died, the blood hero god Iron in his heaven and earth bag. At this moment, the aura of the blood cloud cavalry had already charged 30,000 feet into the sky. Even the pinnacle space dome formation seemed to be having a tough time dealing with it. The arrogance of the flames covered the entire area. On the battlefield, there was no one who could match up to them. No one dared to block the sharpness of this cavalry army. 4,000 people were all perfectly fine. No one was injured. Yin Yang felt really carefree. Threads of intense joy spread throughout his heart, hiding their claws and fangs, bearing with it for these few years. Today, the Blood Cloud Cavalry had once again dominated the world. Zhongsho's gaze was deep in thought as he looked at the peak of mysterious Cloud Mountain, only to see threads of lightning flash in that direction. Dark clouds were also gathering in the sky. Pinnacle lightning sky formation? They want to die together with me. Interesting. He casually kept the halberd in his hand and waved his sleeves. That lightning-winged dragon, along with the 7 St. Firesilver ants, all flew out. I will make a trip to the peak of mysterious Cloud Mountain. Zhong Yuan, you will lead the troops to clear out the remaining enemies and prepare to break the formation. The 4,000 people behind him all accepted the order. Zhongsho hesitated slightly. After confirming that his choice came from his heart and wasn't influenced by the Blood Cavalry Kill Heart Sutra, he opened his mouth expressionlessly, raised the Blood Kill twin flags. Within a day, we won't seal our blades. When his words landed, Zhong Yuan's soul had already charged out from his body. 70% of the blood mist gathered on the blood halberd in his hand. Coincidentally, at this moment, the Kongqi sect disciple controlled the energy-destroying crossbows to fire once more. It caused the spiritual pattern restrictions on mysterious Cloud Mountain to start to collapse once more. Zhongsho followed closely behind, controlling the vast bloodlight in his hand to strike the mountain, protecting spiritual formation. Another explosion, causing the mountain to shake. The mountainside portion of the mountain protecting spiritual formation instantly collapsed, revealing a giant hole. Zhongsho's soul also stepped onto the stone steps of the mountainside. Holding the broken tan sword in his hand, he walked up step by step, leisurely and confidently. Just a few breaths later, a maniacal laugh spread out from the calm, mysterious Cloud Mountain peak. Zhongsho, I don't know if you're crazy or too confident. You dare to come to Mysterious Cloud Mountain alone with your soul? You are asking to die. Fellow sect members, let's work together to kill him. If we kill this person, our Mysterious Cloud Spirit sect will win. Before his words landed, numerous spiritual artifacts and spells fell from the Mysterious Cloud Spirit House at the peak of the mountain. It covered the sky and covered the earth like it could destroy everything. Zhongsho didn't react at all and didn't dodge. He allowed these spells and spiritual artifacts to strike his soul. However, moments later, the sky full of flames and ice rain, wind blades, and lightning finally stopped. Only Zhongsho was still standing on the spot, perfectly fine. He had already walked 100 steps on the broken stone steps. Thus, the several hundred miles of land around him was deathly silent once more. Everyone looked at the scenes in front of them in disbelief. Thousands of spiritual artifacts, thousands of spells, not to mention grade 8, even initial spirit realm cultivators could be killed on the spot. How could this kid be safe and sound? The Gantian mountain people in the distance all heaved a sigh of relief. On the peak of Mysterious Cloud Mountain, the cultivators were filled with shock and fear. If they couldn't even kill such an enemy and couldn't do anything to him, then how are they going to deal with him? Is it an illusion? No. Your origin soul is real. That sharp voice rang out in the sky once more. After the shock, he couldn't help but ask, "What secret technique is this? How is it so miraculous? If you can tell me, I will be really grateful." Zhongsho only felt that this person was really noisy, his brows furrowing slightly. "Shut up. Do you believe that I will wipe out your heart demon sect tomorrow?" As expected, the voice stopped. Zhongsho walked up the steps once more, a blood glow appearing in his eyes once more. The technique he used wasn't some secret technique. It was born from the black and white hole Dharma, looking at the scenes of the absolute beginning, fighting with Osamu Hara in the air. For some reason, he had some comprehension of space laws. Using the black hole in his soul to twist the space around his body, it caused the thousands of spiritual artifacts and spells to be unable to reach his body. This was why he was able to continue forwards without any problems. Unfortunately, this technique could only be used on the soul. 2 breaths later, a cold scoff spread out from above. "Who cares what tricks you are playing? I don't believe that I can't kill you." An aura suddenly appeared beside Zhongsho. A sword slashed over, the sword energy pressing down. Zhongsho's lips curled up as he slashed back. Zhong. Although it was a grade 9 sword, the broken blade sword was extremely sharp. A simple sword was extremely quick, so quick that it was indescribable. It directly broke the grade 9 spiritual sword and easily sliced open the skull of this grade 9 cultivator. One sword to kill a grade 9. Chapter 535. Zhongsho's soul was perfectly fine on the peak of Mysterious Cloud Spirit Mountain. The thousands of Blood Cloud cavalry below also felt their hearts relax. Zhong Yuan's eyes flashed as he took over the lead position, replacing Zhongsho to lead the army. Raise the flag. Kill without mercy. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 people behind him raised 2 large flags. On one side was the word blood, on the other was the word kill, following which Zhong Yuan pointed with his halberd. Change formation, spread out. 1,000 feet apart. Form a goose formation. Clean up the enemy. The Blood Cloud cavalry immediately split into 300 cavalry units and spread out. Each unit was 1,000 feet away from one another. The entire formation was 10,000 feet wide as it started to sweep all the scattered troops at the foot of the mountain. Wherever the red mist passed, no one was able to survive. It was like a death god at the foot of the mountain, continuously reaping lives. At this moment, pretty much everyone on the battlefield was looking at the 2 blood-colored flags. Tiendo and Liaha, who were in charge of the Pinnacle Space Dome formation, laughed out loud. Close to going crazy, it is the Blood Kill twin flags. The ruler really didn't lie to us and wants to kill all of us. If we don't keep the flags, blood will flow for 1,000 miles. If the enemy isn't wiped out, we won't seal our blades. Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect is about to die. Yuan Kong, oh Yuan Kong, when you followed the Ling Yun sect to destroy my Fuling sect, did you ever think that your mysterious cloud sect would also be destroyed? Today, your entire mysterious cloud spirit sect is going to be wiped out. No one can survive. Whilst he spoke, he crazily injected soul power into the golden round plate. The disciples of the two of them and the remaining Fuling sect cultivators all flew beside the two of them. They didn't say a word as they formed up to help Mingdo and Lieha continue to spread out the pinnacle space dome formation. Dozens of people worked together, causing the heaven and earth veil to become even more firm and firm. At this moment, there was nothing more exciting than personally seeing their enemies fall one by one. Below, Shui Lingxiao sighed slightly. Her expression was filled with emotions and also a little unwillingness. It was really complicated. It's a pity that the mysterious cloud spirit sect's 10,000 years of foundation is destroyed today. That Highness really wants to wipe out mysterious Cloud Mountain. But Tianqi smiled faintly, not minding at all. If not, how can we achieve hegemony? The ruler hid for close to a year to wipe out the Donglin sects, as well as the Thousand City Alliance elites on mysterious Cloud Mountain. How can I hold back now? Whilst he spoke, he saw the many Kongqi sect disciples in charge of the energy-destroying crossbows look over, their eyes filled with a request for instructions. Tianqi immediately waved his hand, indicating for them to continue. Since Zhongsho was able to be fine under thousands of spells and thousands of spiritual artifacts on Gantia Mountain. If that was the case, then the energy-destroying crossbow would be fine too. However, there were still many people in the crowd who did not understand. Jingyin was at a loss. Blood symbol flag and kill symbol flag, what do they mean? Why is everyone like this? Among the people around her, she was only familiar with Zhao Yanran, so she didn't expect to get a reply. However, just as she asked that, Kong Yao frowned. This is the blood-kill twin flag. 10,000 years ago, it was a bad habit of the Wuya country blood cloud cavalry. Every time they were about to slaughter, they would raise the blood-kill twin flag. Every time they were raised, blood would flow for 1,000 miles. No surrendering and no pardoning. If they didn't wipe them out, they wouldn't seal their blades. That monster king is prepared to wipe out everyone in mysterious cloud spirit sect, not leaving anyone alive. Jingyin's body instantly shook. She placed her palms together and chanted, Amitba, Yuan Shur Buddha, her brows furrowed. Who knew that His Highness would have such a strong, killing intent? Such a person isn't a demon, but is no different from one. Yanran, in the future you are going to become a Buddha. It is best if you stay far away from him. Zhao Yanran burst out laughing, her hand covering her mouth, her face filled with a cruel intent. It was not easy to wait for Zhongsho to have such a good time. He was decisive in killing like a lord. It made her feel much better. To stay far away from Zhongsho, wasn't that a joke? My embryo of Tao should be so cruel. Just as the people were speaking, Zhongsho was already 7,000 feet away from the mysterious cloud spirit house at the peak of the mountain. His eyes were silent as he looked above. He could even clearly hear the discussions of the mysterious cloud spirit sect and the other sections. Bloodkill twin flag. It is actually the Bloodkill twin flag. As expected, he wants to wipe out our entire sect. If this person doesn't die, you and I will have no chance of living. Damn it. If we knew that this would happen, we wouldn't have offended this monster king. It is all because of that Han Nishui that our mysterious cloud spirit sect attracted such a huge calamity. Jerk! If we didn't attack first and kill this kid, would he still be able to survive? Would he allow our mysterious cloud spirit sect to exist? If we want to blame someone, we can only blame Senior Master Yuan Kong. We were too late. We let this Zhongsho become so powerful. The only thing we can do now is to work together and fight to the death. The corner of Zhongsho's lips curled up, like he didn't hear anything as he continued to stably climb up step by step. At this moment, there were still numerous spells, numerous spiritual artifacts, numerous talismans, all descending. However, At this moment, Zhongsho was using the black hole space twisting technique more and more smoothly. In the past, only 5 out of 1,000 people could touch his soul body. At this moment, less than 1 to 2 out of 1,000 could break through this twisted space. His soul was totally unharmed. At this moment, the elemental destroyer divine crossbow behind began to roar again. Streams of Yuan power gathered and bombarded the mountain continuously. It shook the mountain protecting formation, causing the talismans and restrictions on the mountain to be destroyed, causing more and more gaps to appear. Just at this moment, a voice spread into Zhongsho's ears, saying coldly, "It is actually twisting space." So that is the case. This secret technique is really amazing. No wonder they couldn't hurt you. Who knows if you can dodge this grade 9 sword? In the air, 3 sword shadows struck, stabbing towards Zhongsho from the left and right. It came suddenly, without any signs at all. In the blink of an eye, before the sword shadow appeared, the tip of the sword was right in front of his eyes. The sharp sword energy even caused Zhongsho's soul to shake. However, the smile on Zhongsho's face was still the same as before. They saw through it. However, so what if the space twisting technique he used was seen through by these people? Without this technique, Zhongsho could still suppress grade 9 swordsman. The spiritual energy he absorbed from that grade 9 swordsman was just worrying about not having a place to use it. The broken tan sword in his hand shone with a sword light, like a swallow, flying in the air, really light and agile. It broke through the barriers of space and time, following which there was a sharp clang, only to see a middle-aged man in a Taoist robe, his face filled with disbelief as he stood 20 feet away. At the center of his brows, there was a blood-colored sword wound. As for the 2 sword shadows on his left and right, Zhongsho didn't bother about them. Taking a step forward, he was 300 feet away, coincidentally brushing past the middle-aged man in the Taoist robe. That person's body instantly exploded into pieces, turning into a blood rain that scattered down the mountain. In front of Zhongsho's eyes, essence energy shook once more. A full 10 grade 9 soul tigers appeared in front of him. Their soul bodies were wrapped in lightning. They were deep purple and had 2 wings on their backs. The moment the 9 lightning winged tigers appeared, they started to gather. In just a breath, their bodies swelled by several times. Their aura crazily rose, like they had crossed the celestial path barrier and entered the spirit realm. This caused heaven and earth to start to reject and suppress them. Following which this giant soul beast roared out in rage and pounced down. Zhongsho took a look and was slightly shocked. Following which, he didn't bother about it at all. It was indeed close to the spirit realm, but after all, it was just close. 10 soul beasts, they were all lightning winged tigers, but after all, they were merged in not one body. There were simply too many flaws in his plan. Slashing out with a sword energy instantly charged close to 1,000 feet. Around Zhongsho's body, waves of essence energy exploded. However, when the light dissipated, the spirit beast that was close to the spirit realm had totally collapsed, and its soul was nowhere to be seen. On the contrary, numerous lightning bolts wrapped around Zhongsho's sword. First, he used sword strength to cause the conflict in the body of the merged soul beast. Then, the fake energy turned real, stabbing in from its weakness and ending it with one sword. The entire process was really simple. Zhongsho's body once again crossed 300 feet. Suddenly, a vast purple lightning bolt appeared in the sky. It slashed down. It directly pierced through the twisting space and headed right for his soul body. This purple lightning also came suddenly. Even Zhongsho wasn't prepared for it. First, he used sword intent to block it. Then, Zhongsho didn't bother, allowing the purple lightning to flow around his body. Following which, the lightning phoenix mark in his soul ocean suddenly shot out. 2 giant purple thunderous wings with a width of 40 zhang spread out from his back. It also used the energy swallowing technique to absorb the lightning spells that the mysterious cloud spirit sect cultivator struck down. With each bit it absorbed, the lightning wings on his back would become a little stronger. Grade 9 spirit cultivator. Raising his eyes and looking up, he saw someone similarly dressed in Taoist attire. This celestial-like old man who was close to 60 years old was looking down in astonishment, like he was shocked that the top secret technique of the mysterious cloud spirit sect, the mysterious cloud purple extreme lightning technique, wasn't able to harm Zhongsho at all. Zhongsho only took a look before retracting his gaze. Suddenly, a silver light charged out from his sleeves. Then, the purple lightning wings on his back suddenly shrunk to 100 feet. The lightning surrounding the broken tan sword also disappeared without a trace. At this moment, the cloud's shocking God-destroying sword intent in his body had totally dissipated and he was unable to copy it. However, at this moment, there was no need to borrow it. The knife light flashed, and in a moment, it was thousands of feet away. It shuttled through the mountain protecting spirit array at the peak of Mysterious Heavens Mountain and changed directions several times. The maniacal lightning sword intent gathered on the knife body exploded out, and the knife body sped up once more. Pong! With a low thud, it actually pierced through the body of that Taoist. The vast lightning glow exploded out, tearing his soul into pieces. This was the 6-god defensive knife. When the knife slashed out, it definitely wouldn't miss. Zhongsho took another step forward. The sword light flashed once more, passing through the heavy sword images. Instantly, another grade 9 sword cultivator died, and his sword shattered. Tens of feet away, Lei Dong sucked in a deep cold breath. This is 1 step, 9 steps. Chapter 536. This is 1 step, 1 grade 9. When this exclamation sounded out, the area within 1,000 feet was totally silent. Wasn't that the case? At this moment, pretty much every step Zhongsho took, there would be a grade 9 cultivator who would be killed on the spot. Xin Yuantong was also at a loss. He knew that there were 4,000 Blood Cloud cavalry here. Today, Zhongsho would definitely win the battle on Mysterious Cloud Mountain. He also knew that his son-in-law was already really strong. However, to be so strong to such an extent, it was really shocking. Even if he had personally witnessed Zhongsho's shocking talent, after being drunk, he still felt that it was unbelievable. Worry rose up in Kong Yao's eyes. Such a strong country rising up in the east of the cloud world. Such a heroic ruler. It was probably a disaster and not a blessing for the Taishan. Her heart moved, and she felt that something wasn't right. She used her bloodline's secret technique, and a blood mark appeared at the center of her brows. She once again looked towards the person who was not far from the peak. Then, her petite face instantly turned ashen white. At this moment, every step Zhongsho took, threads of white energy would gather around him. That was obviously king energy. Maybe Zhongsho himself didn't notice it and didn't do it on purpose. However, she could sense that every step Zhongsho got closer to the peak, every grade 9 cultivator he killed, the white energy would become thicker. She could feel that the luck of the entire Donglin cloud continent was slowly gathering on Zhongsho's body. It slowly formed into the shape of a dragon. It was obvious that the situation was formed and the dragon body was about to be formed. As long as he started a country and worshipped the heavens, he would instantly become the ancestor of a country. However, at this moment, what she didn't understand the most was that king energy. It was the same as before, pure white and flawless, without any impurities. Instead, it was even purer. It was still the Saint King energy. Kong Yao couldn't understand and only felt that it was unbelievable. The Blood Cloud cavalry had already slaughtered close to 1 million people. He would not let those scattered soldiers go either. His actions were ruthless and ruthless, without the slightest bit of benevolence. But why was he still a Saint King? He also thought about how His Majesty took care of his vassals and rewarded them generously. If there was no righteous cause, he would not rashly mobilize his troops, nor did he enjoy killing. Every time the northern and southern borderlands provoked him, he would restrain himself. Even if there were occasional casualties, they would at most be questioned. This would also prevent the people from wasting money and suffering countless casualties when war broke out. Every few years, there would be a general amnesty for the sinners. He was praised by the world as a truly benevolent ruler. But why couldn't they compare to the barbarians here? Could it be that what the Confucians said was actually wrong? The true path of a ruler was to be a king on the inside and a tyrant on the outside, not a king on the inside and a saint on the outside. How is this possible? Wasn't the first Qin emperor, who conquered countless people, a good example? This person was domineering, but he died because of the second generation. After that, there were several emperors who used the character Wu as their posthumous title, but because they practiced the art of hegemony, their country's power declined greatly. Then, did the heavenly path change? Her mind was in a daze. Various thoughts rose up in her mind. Kong Yao only felt that she was about to go crazy. Unbelievable. This was really unbelievable. Something must have gone wrong somewhere. As expected, there are no weaklings in the 6 pinnacle swords of the cloud world. Long Ying's disciple is indeed amazing. Shui Lingxiao sighed. It was like she didn't know that Zhong Shou was Tan Xiu. A few months ago, Tan Xiu's sword skills had already surpassed Yue's. At this moment, she shook her head slightly and opened her mouth. This battle is about to end. Our Seven Spirits sect wants to take advantage, but we can't let others say that we didn't put in any effort. Fellow sect members, please form up. Following her words, Shui Lingxiao's body also soared into the sky. Strands of spiritual energy spread out from his body. The surrounding 7 spirit sect female cultivators all rose into the air and lined up according to their cultivation. After receiving Shui Lingxiao's spiritual energy channels, they also spread out more spiritual energy channels. In just 10 breaths, a huge formation was formed. Then, countless spirit tattoos and flying talismans were formed. At this moment, Shui Lingxiao pointed out, she didn't cast any spells or chant any incantations. However, tens of thousands of feet away, the mountain protecting formation of mysterious Cloud Mountain suddenly twisted. It tore a full 10% of the enormous strange force apart. Not bad, not bad. It should be like this: kill, 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 kill. Good job. The disciple of my Long Ying should have such a domineering aura. Within the void, Dragon Shadow Taoist was roaring out in laughter. He was incomparably joyous and had a gleeful look on his face. What a blood cloud cavalry! Since they have such strong troops, this should be more straightforward. These useless chickens and pottery dogs should be destroyed. Why are you still talking about righteousness? Suddenly, he had an idea and Long Ying laughed. That person can't take it anymore. A.O. Kuen's brows rose up. Is it the void inquiry stage? Who else can it be? Naturally, it is the Lingyun sect ancestor. Long Ying scoffed. I will make a move first to stop him. Come over later and wipe out as many of those God Realm and Celestial Realm cultivators as you can. It is okay if you wipe them all out. A.O. Kuen smiled and didn't say anything. His eyes were filled with a fierce glow. He licked his lips. It had been a long time since he killed. Unfortunately, human blood and human meat didn't taste good. To think that his people in the past had such a good appetite. Long Ying didn't bother about him. He knew that even if this old friend was sealed for 10,000 years, his nature wouldn't change. He tore open the void and crossed several worlds in an instant. In the next instant, he saw a young Taoist in the distance. He was also tearing the space apart. Actually, at this moment, the two of them were within the layers of the void and couldn't see each other. However, Long Ying's spiritual sense could sense them. A cultivator's spiritual sense was sometimes even better than their eyes. The moment that happened, Long Ying was delighted. Wen Su, where are you preparing to go? Do you want me to accompany you? That teen cultivator seemed to have expected that Long Ying would come. He calmly turned around and didn't hide anything. Brother Long Ying, why are you asking when you already know the answer? Your disciple is a step ahead today. If I don't save him, Mysterious Cloud Spirit sect will be wiped out and Lingyun sect will suffer heavy losses. Wen Su can't sit still and do nothing. Long Ying smiled and nodded his head, squinting his eyes as he asked. Then, Wen Su, do you think that I, Long Ying, will let you go just like that? No. Wen Su decisively shook his head. His tone was still really calm. which is why this time I didn't plan to personally head to the cloud world. Whilst he spoke, within the layers of space, two auras that weren't weaker than the two of them appeared behind Long Ying, several layers away. Long Ying's sword intent instantly rose up, sweeping the two behind him with his spiritual sense. He had an idea of their strength. They were both intermediate Saint Realm. Their strength is not bad. When Sue, you really have a wide circle of friends. You can even get such experts to help you. However, do you think that with just the three of them working together, they can beat me, Long Ying? Whether or not we can win, we will only know after the battle. When Sue shook his head slightly, a sword in his hand, following which the layers of space around him were forcefully twisted. Whether or not we can win isn't important. As long as we can delay you, Long Ying, for a short while it is enough. That disciple of yours is indeed talented and bold. After inheriting the position for a few years, he silently restored the Blood Cloud Cavalry. Unfortunately, he doesn't know that as long as we are willing to pay the price and not worry about those few World Protector Venerables, it would be really easy to kill him. At this moment, Long Ying was more and more delighted, laughing out loud. What a good idea! Coincidentally, I, Long Ying, also have such intentions. Why don't we just wait here? When Sue, you can't wait any longer. Only then did when Sue's expression freeze, revealing a shocked expression. At the same time, not far away from where the two of them were, dozens of strong auras were like shooting stars as they sped through space. They flew towards where the cloud world was at. At the head of the dozens of lights was Shunxiao. At this moment, his eyes were filled with rage and impatience. If a cultivator's lifespan wasn't at the end realm, it was limited. The previous generations of mysterious cloud spirit sects' ancestral masters had already passed away. Out of the various generations of disciples, he was the leader. The mysterious cloud spirit sect, which was originally a small sect at the border, grew stronger and stronger in his hands, becoming the third of the 19 spiritual lands. At this moment, seeing that the mysterious cloud spirit sect had suffered heavy losses and was about to be wiped out, he was furious. How could he not be angry? How could he not be anxious? Zhongsho, Blood Cloud Cavalry. Once he entered the cloud world, those four venerables would be alerted in just a breath and rush over. However, if he suppressed his internal energy to grade 9 and below, the situation would be different. With his strong physical body, God realm strength, and his comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth, destroying the Blood Cloud Cavalry and the Gantia Mountain Monster King was just a matter of flipping his palm. He was thinking while communicating with the few God realm cultivators around him with his spiritual sense. Suddenly, a giant hand slapped over from the void. Shunxiao was shocked and hurriedly dodged. There were two people beside him who couldn't dodge in time. One of them was struck by the giant palm. He was directly smashed into pieces. The person who died was a peak celestial realm cultivator from Lingyun's sect. The other person who was heavily injured was his junior brother, one of the only 3 God realm cultivators in Shunxiao's sect. Shunxiao instantly felt like his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. His heart filled with shock as he looked into the void where the giant palm came from. Who is it? Why did you sneak attack us? In the next moment, they saw the figure of a young man suddenly appear in front of them. There was a playful and bloodthirsty smile on his lips. It is me, A.O. Kuan. You want to go to the cloud world, mysterious cloud mountain? Then I can only say sorry. I, A.O. Kuan, will take your lives. The moment he said that, the teen pointed towards one of them. One of the divine firmament sect's immortal realm cultivators was immediately affected by a strange power. He was ripped into pieces. The teen's brows rose up, following which he praised in his heart. This destruction technique was really useful. At this moment, Shunxiao only felt his heart turn cold. The person in front of him was actually Saint Realm. What relationship did he have with Zhongsho for him to help him? Chapter 537. So it is A.O. Kuan. No matter how calm and composed he was, when Sue's face was filled with shock at this moment. Instead, his expression became increasingly gloomy. When did he break through to the Saint Realm? You helped him find that dragon pellet? You Long Ying are so bold. His fists were clenched tightly. The bones in his body were cracking. The void around him continued to explode. Accidents kept happening again and again. He thought that today's battle could totally wipe out Gantian Mountain, which was nailed into Donglin Cloud Continent. He also thought that he could kill Long Ying and end all future problems. However, when both sides went all out, he realized that the trump card of the other party was far from what he expected. For 1,000 Blood Cloud Cavalry, a newly advanced Saint Realm, and he was able to push mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect into an irrecoverable state. When I saved A.O. Kuan from that person, I, Long Ying, promised that I wouldn't help him. Long Ying is a man of his word, so why would he do such a thing? Long Ying shook his head, filled with mocking intent. It was Zhongshou who helped him obtain the Destruction Dragon Pellet in the Dragon Hall, along with 3 drops of Past Life True Fountain. This was why A.O. Kuan got a blessing in disguise. Anyways, he obtained the Destruction Law and entered the Saint Realm. That person planned for 10,000 years to seal A.O. Kuan to find a strong helper for the God Emperor. He probably didn't expect that A.O. Kuan's fate would change. It seems like the heavenly Tao might not only favor him. At this point, Dragon Shadow smiled and said, "Are you in a hurry? I told you that you and Su wouldn't be able to take it." When Su's expression didn't change, only his eyes flashed. He was indeed anxious, and his internal organs felt like they were burning. Long Ying laughed maniacally once more, delighted and filled with fighting spirit. "Then do the 3 of you want to fight? If within 4 hours you can beat me, Long Ying, mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect, might have a chance to live." When Su kept silent, he couldn't fight either. Even if the 3 of them worked together just now, they only had a 30% chance of winning. Not to mention that his mental state was already in disorder at this moment, and impatience had arisen in his heart. He didn't even have a 10% chance of winning this battle. Not to mention that A.O. Kuan could return to help Long Ying at any moment. At that time, among the 3 of them, it would be considered pretty good if 2 of them could escape unscathed. What they should be thinking about now was not fighting, but how to retreat. When Su's eyes also revealed a trace of despair. Could it be that the heavens wanted their soaring cloud sect to be destroyed? Zhongshou was still climbing halfway up the mysterious sky mountain. He was already very close to the mysterious sky spiritual palace. However, this final part was extremely difficult. Previously, he could cross 300 feet with a single step. Now he could cross 1 stone step with a single step. The mountain-protecting spiritual formation here was continuously attacked by the Kongqi sect's energy-destroying crossbows. It was also forcefully disrupted by the 7 Spirit sect, causing a portion of it to be torn apart. However, the closer they got to the core of the formation, the more complete they became. There were no weaknesses to be found, and they were unable to easily cross it like before. Zhongshou calmed down and started to break this formation bit by bit. The broken tan sword in his hand continued to randomly slash in the air. It seemed casual, but after each sword, a gap would appear in front of Zhongshou. The path ahead was open and they could continue up. Each spiritual pattern restriction was broken. Zhongshou could feel that his understanding of the talisman path was improving. Sometimes, if he couldn't break it, then he would forcefully break it open. The pair of lightning wings behind his back had already stretched to 1,000 feet. However, it was different from before. That was because within the dense lightning, there was a sky-burning flame. The purple wings had already turned black. Every time it flapped, there would be a series of continuous explosions that brought about destruction. Each time Zhongshou drew power from the wings, he would be able to forcefully break open a path in the impossible. The discussions above continued to spread into his ears. "All of you stop. Save your spiritual energy. Our spells are useless against him. What space secret technique does he have? This Zhongshou is a monster, a demon. Remember, you're not allowed to cast any fire or lightning elemental spells. Not only are they useless, but they are also helping his reputation." Zhongshou smiled and continued to walk up. Actually, if these people continued, his lightning blaze, thousand flash secret technique wouldn't be able to last for long. If he continued to use it, the sky-burning flame, without a water element bloodline, would go out of control. As expected, he had to find a water element bloodline god beast to kill and absorb its bloodline mark. Just as he was thinking about that, Zhongsho suddenly felt that his mind was stabbed. Then he looked up. He saw a teen standing 100 feet above. He was extremely delicate and handsome, filled with a scholarly aura. In his hand, he held a 3-foot-long curved knife. Zhongsho's brows furrowed as he looked closely at this person. He felt a similar peak intent. Blade Lord Wuhui? It is Li Wuhui. I am not worthy of the title of Blade Lord. That teen acknowledged, following which he pointed the tip of his knife backwards and bowed solemnly. I shouldn't have come for this battle, but due to human relations. If I have offended your highness, please forgive me. Zhongsho laughed when he heard that. My tolerance has always been really small. Li Wuhui was startled when he heard that, following which he smiled. Your highness is really interesting, speaking directly. Li Wuhui had seen his highness's swordsmanship just now. It was Li Wuhui's fortune to be able to fight with his highness. Pay attention. A snow-bright knife light suddenly flew out of the sheath. It was as quick as a shadow, like a spark, disappearing in an instant. That suppressive knife intent added onto the knife seemed like it wasn't restricted by the laws of space, exceeding the limits. Zhongsho's eyes were filled with seriousness. In the nick of time, he blocked with his sword. With a light ding, the knife and sword both retreated upon contact. However, Zhongsho was nearly forced back by the huge strength from the sword body. Li Wuhui's strength wasn't great, far from Osamu Hara's and even weaker than Juyu's. However, each time he slashed out, due to the extreme speed, the knife's strength became stronger and more concentrated. After a few consecutive strikes, Zhongsho's brows furrowed. Then, they relaxed, revealing a look of understanding. So it is time. This snow-bright, curved knife could obviously slice through time and borrow its strength. It was time knife intent. Li Wuhui was also shocked. Your highness is really amazing. This is the first time someone recognized the foundations of my knife intent. It was actually time. No wonder it was so quick. Zhongsho frowned. Not only was it quick, but it was also really sharp. The clash had only lasted for a short moment, but several cracks had already appeared on his broken tan sword. He only felt a huge headache. If such an opponent didn't return to his physical body, he would be able to fight against it. If he didn't have his physical body, then it wouldn't be easy to win against this person. He thought about it seriously. Then, just as the knife shadow was about to reach his body, Zhongsho also stabbed out with his sword, but it was also really sharp. It had already caught up to the speed of the curved knife and clashed once more in the air, based on the theories that people had researched 10,000 years later. Beside the black and white holes, not only was space twisted, but time was also twisted. His sword could also move alongside time. It was also the instant space dragon sword. When the sword shadow slashed out, Li Wuhui exclaimed like he was shocked that Zhongsho's sword speed could actually keep up with him. The sword blades clashed several times, and then there was a crisp ding sound. That 3-foot curved knife and the broken tan sword in Zhongsho's hand broke at the same time. Li Wuhui's body instantly retreated, once again retreating 100 feet away. Zhongsho's brows furrowed once more. He came with his soul and didn't bring a backup sword. He didn't expect that there would actually be someone who could break his sword on the peak of mysterious Cloud Mountain. Since the broken tan sword had already broken, then he grabbed out in the air and a portion of space spirit gathered over. It gathered in Zhongsho's hand and formed a black sword. Li Wuhui's expression changed and he retreated another 100 feet. So, it is you. I nearly didn't recognize you. It seems like there is no need for us to fight. Zhongsho was stunned. So was you? This Li Wuhui seemed to have recognized something. Then, he heard Li Wuhui smile. I have seen you fight with others in the past, and it has benefited me a lot. The reason why my knife intent can reach the peak is because of you. Although your appearance is different now, Your swordsmanship is still vaguely similar. Although your highness can hide it and only use the 99 long Ing sword, there are still traces of him. Zhongsho thought about it and came to his senses. He knew that the battle Li Wuhui was talking about was the one with Juyu. There were simply too many people who saw it, and Li Wuhui was most probably one of them. Indeed, even if he tried to hide it, he still couldn't change some of his sword habits. Just now, when he blocked those few strokes of the time blade, there were traces of the one origin Ing sword. Other people couldn't see it, but a top person like Li Wuhui would be able to sense it. After thinking it through, Zhongsho calmed down and entered deep thought. I am thinking about how to kill you. I will keep my mouth shut. Li Wuhui smiled bitterly. Moreover, at this moment, I don't think your highness will fear anything. There is no need for me to do such a stupid thing. Zhongsho smiled. That was true. Didn't you say that you owe Ling Yun sect a favor? Are you not going to care? I can't say that I don't care. It's just that I owe one of your senior brothers more. As Li Wuhui said that, he mocked himself. Moreover, I know that I am not your opponent. If I continue to fight, I will only die. So what is the point of fighting? My name is Wuhui, but I am not so dumb to die for some people. Zhongsho's expression didn't change. This person was smart and knew himself. However, with just a few words, he wasn't going to let him off just like that. Blood killed twin flags, kill them all. That wasn't just for show. No matter who it was, if they stood in front of him today, they would die under his sword. Li Wuhui seemed to know what Zhongsho was thinking, sighing, I know that your highness wants to kill me today. Luckily, before I came, I prepared some things. Whilst he said that, Li Wuhui tossed out a purple gold spiritual talisman, and the space around him was filled with time and space spiritual energy. Chapter 538. I know that your highness wants to kill me today. Luckily, I prepared some things before I came. Whilst he spoke, Li Wuhui tossed out a purple gold spiritual talisman, following which the space around him was filled with time and space spiritual energy. Celestial talisman? Universe-breaking world? Zhongsho's brows rose up before he calmed down. Since it was such a celestial-grade talisman, then no wonder it was able to travel through space under the cover of the Pinnacle Space Dome formation. However, it wasn't so easy to leave in front of him. Just as Li Wuhui's body was about to disappear, Zhongsho stabbed out with his sword. This sword directly stabbed into the void. It was still the instant space dragon sword. However, he used the black hole technique to continue to twist time. Li Wuhui scoffed beside his ear and then sighed. The black empty blade in his hand also collapsed at the same time and disappeared without a trace. Zhongsho frowned and scoffed as he continued to step towards the peak. Just now, he had only heavily injured Li Wuhui and wasn't able to kill him. Since this person had his own way to escape from the Pinnacle Space Dome formation, then he could only temporarily stop. This debt could be settled in the future. The black blade shadow continued to form. It slashed through the air, sword energy slashing out 300 feet away. When the blade of emptiness shattered once again, a corpse with its head and body cut in half suddenly appeared in that place. It was actually a grade 9 martial cultivator. His eyes were still filled with disbelief. Since the start of the battle between him and Li Wuhui, this person had used the help of the mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect's mountain protecting formation to hide nearby and wait for a chance. Unfortunately, from start to finish, he wasn't able to see any flaws. His gaze was cold as he swept around. Then he felt that the few auras were swiftly retreating. In just a breath, they had disappeared without a trace. Zhongsho could only shake his head slightly. Didn't these people know that once he reached the peak, a battle to the death was unavoidable? At that time, they would still fight to the death. The hundreds of energy-destroying crossbows were still firing. However, the restrictions at the core were becoming more and more difficult. Each step that Zhongsho took, he had to think about it carefully before he could solve it. However, after a few dozen breaths, a crimson spear suddenly appeared in the void and flew over. First, it smashed all the restrictions within 600 feet in front of Zhongsho. They were all forcefully smashed. Then, with a duo sound, it was nailed to the ground. The handle of the spear was shaking. Zhong Shou's brow slightly furrowed as he looked behind him, where the blood spear came from. 10%, Zhong Shou. Zhong Shou, Zhong, Zhong Shou, Zhong Shou, Zhong Shou. The 300 Zhong Shou Zhong was Zhong Shou. Zhong Shou, Zhong Shou. Zhong Zhong. However, they didn't use spears. Instead, they used short halberds that were only 2 feet long. Many spears flew over and smashed into the stone path in front of Zhong Shou. As for the millions of troops gathered at the foot of the mountain, they had either scattered far away or been slaughtered, becoming a part of the blood mist. His lips curled up as Zhong Shou continued to head up. At this moment, the path ahead had been barbarically opened up by his blood cloud cavalry, making it really smooth. Zhong Shou was really relaxed as he walked on the stone steps with his hands behind his back. In just tens of breaths, he had already reached the peak. If one looked from below, the peak was at most 4,000 feet, far from Gantia Mountain. However, if one looked from the peak, this place was 2,000 feet long and wide. It wasn't as good as the common people's vast habitat, but the spiritual energy here was really abundant. Everywhere was shining with a 5-colored spiritual light. At this moment, right away, Zhong Shou's attention was attracted to the formation that was running in mid-air. 2,000 people all stood at a specific position, mysterious but also in sync with the path. However, at this moment, all the disciples of the mysterious cloud spirit sect had pained expressions in their eyes. Their bodies were withering, their essence, energy, and vital energy were being sucked out bit by bit and gathered in the center above. An incomparably vast lightning ball was continuing to expand. Below the lightning ball was Han Nishui. However, although he could see with his eyes, Zhong Shou knew that he was still a step away from this mysterious cloud spirit house. This time, he didn't wait for the blood spear and halberd behind him, flapping the 2,000 feet long black wings, following which all the lightning glow and all the black flames. They all gathered in Zhong Shou's hands, turning into a huge long sword as he slashed forwards. Lightning blaze, 1,000 flash, slash. Where the black sword shadow passed, everything in front of him was being destroyed. A small piece of space seemed to be smashed into pieces. The core of the mountain protecting spiritual formation was also falling apart, no longer existing. When Zhong Shou truly stepped onto the peak of the mountain, the entire sky suddenly gave out a loud, thunderous roar like that of thunder. Countless clouds, overflowing with 5-colored luster, converged. At this moment, 30,000 feet away, Kong Yao pursed her lips, unwillingness appearing in her eyes. In the end, he still succeeded. The moment he truly stepped onto the peak, a giant white dragon finally formed, circling around Zhong Shou's body. Colorful clouds gathered, thousands of streaks of auspicious light. This was the aura of a true king. It wasn't that she didn't want to stop it, but at this moment, she had no choice. She only felt a slight piercing pain from the blood mark at the center of her brows. Kong Yao could only unwillingly retract the bloodline's secret technique passed down in her family. The dignity of a king couldn't be offended. It was okay before Zhong Shou wasn't a true king. However, at this moment, if one dared to look for too long, one would suffer a backlash and even suffer the wrath of the heavens. Just now, in the short span of a breath, Lin Fan was stunned. If it was someone else, their lifespan would have been reduced by at least 30 years. However, in her heart, she thought to herself, it was still a saint king. Even Zhong Shou had actually stained his hands with the blood of millions. That king energy was still pure white. It seemed like the more people he killed, the purer the aura was. It was like the entire heaven and earth was cheering for him and feeling happy for him. One could feel that the entire world was restless because of him. Pretty much at the same time, in another part of the void, the figure of a woman in palace attire suddenly stood up. Her face, which was as delicate and smooth as jade porcelain, had completely changed color. Saint King. How could it be a Saint King? What was the background of the disciple that Wei Su chose for her sister? Why did he have the Saint King energy? That aura was pure white and flawless, she definitely wouldn't have seen it wrongly. The other girl beside her was stunned. Second sister, why are you so shocked that you lost your composure? The sister kept silent and didn't speak. After a long while, she glanced at the teen beside her, thinking to herself that if she knew what happened, she would be like her. Should she tell her? She thought about it for a moment. The girl still opened her mouth. That Zhongsho has already turned into dragon energy. The teen smiled expressionlessly and wasn't shocked at all. The 4 million elites of the Thousand City Alliance were all buried here. After this battle, most of the Donglin sects would either die or scatter. In this world, no one would be able to stop Gantian Mountain from unifying the Donglin Cloud Continent. Then, the fate of Donglin gathered on Zhongsho's body. It was expected that he would turn into a dragon body. Why was there a need to be shocked? She heard the girl beside her, who he called second sister, say. At this moment, he said leisurely, "You know that after I used a secret technique to enter the end realm, although I didn't cultivate those fate viewing techniques. Sometimes with the senses of the heavens, I can see through it." The teen nodded her head. All end realm god venerables had great abilities. Even her sister just used tricks and wasn't a true Dao. However, she was close to being omnipotent and naturally had such methods. She was also curious about what Zhongsho did to make her sister so shocked. That leisurely voice also continued. Just now, I looked at his king energy. It was pure white and flawless. The moment she said this, the teen was startled and then broke out into a laugh. King energy, pure, white, and flawless. So, it is the Saint King energy? I remember that in the past, I saw in a Taoist book that discussed fate and luck. However, senior sister, are you joking with me? Since the cloud desolate era, how long has it been since a Saint King appeared? It is impossible. Even the wise rulers of the central cloud continent, even the rulers of the outer regions who ruled thousands of worlds, none of them had the right to be called Saint Ruler. As she spoke, she looked at the woman in palace attire beside her. She saw that the woman's eyes were clearly very, very serious. She was saying that she wasn't joking with her. The teen was stunned once more. Her mind was in a daze. So, it is really the Saint King? Looking at her, she slowly nodded her head. At this moment, the teen didn't know whether she should be happy or sad. She only felt that it was preposterous. Artsong Xingdao can actually produce a saint ruler? What is this? That lazy fellow who doesn't care about anything is actually the saint ruler chosen by the heavens? The heavens must be blind. She rubbed her brow with a headache. Suddenly, she thought about something and opened her eyes, only to see the opposite side look over at the same time and exclaim in unison, "God Emperor!" Was this considered planting flowers but not blooming, but unintentionally planting a willow, and the willow growing? Titsong Xingdao, was this a blessing or a curse? The brows of the girl in the palace dress were tightly furrowed. She remembered that way Su had mentioned that Gantian Mountain was really important to their Tsong Xingdao. Thinking about it now, there was definitely a reason. Was it that the country policy of Zhongsho was similar to that of Tsong Xingdao? If that was the case, she really had to go take a look. Zhongsho was also stunned as he looked up at the sky, at the 5-color cloud glow. This was a 5-colored auspicious cloud? Wasn't this a little too ridiculous? The massacre had just begun, and the lives of 400 people were decided with just one word from him. At this time, shouldn't the heavens cry out and even punish the heavens? But why were there auspicious clouds appearing on the mountain peak and giving off an auspicious light? Did the heavens have any brains? Chapter 539. Weird. Why was it here? This place tens of thousands of miles away from his Gantian mountain city. He could still feel the strength of the country starting to connect with him. In his heart, he only felt that it was unbelievable. However, Zhongsho didn't care much about it, stepping into the mysterious cloud spirit house. At this moment, within the spiritual house, all the cultivators of the various sects were filled with despair. The mountain protecting restricted land was forcefully opened. This also meant that the last layer of barrier had been totally lost. The 4,200 blood cloud cavalry below were already stepping in the air. There were no more obstructions from the mysterious cloud spirit house. In front of Zhong Shou stood 3 people. Mysterious cloud spirit Sex Yuan Kong, Lingyun Zhongling, and Weizi, as well as Daoming Sex Wia, all looked over with green faces. As for Long Ruo and the others, they didn't bother at all. In their hearts, they didn't care about these people anymore. They weren't worth mentioning. This is your mysterious cloud, spirit, sex, pinnacle, lightning sky formation. I heard that if it is completed, 1,000 miles of land will be destroyed. Not bad. During the ancient times, it destroyed millions of troops and was really famous. With his hands behind his back, Zhong Shou looked on calmly. What a waste. It is still 2 hours away. It is just an incomplete formation. Yuan Kong didn't reply and didn't bother about how Zhong Shou knew about the foundations of the formation. Being praised by him like that, he only felt his heart turn cold. To use a method of dying together to destroy the enemy wasn't something to brag about. However, at this moment, he still had to say something. Is my mysterious cloud spirit sect willing to change sides and serve Gantian Mountain? Is your highness willing to let us go? As soon as he said that, the eyes of many mysterious clouds spirit sect cultivators, who were already in despair, flickered, revealing a hopeful look. As for Wu Yu and Wei Lingzi, their expressions changed slightly before they calmed down. At this time, mysterious cloud spirit sect was about to be wiped out. If they surrendered to Gantian Mountain, there was nothing they could criticize. Zhong Shou scoffed. The blood-kill twin flags are about to appear. Yuan Kong, do you think it is possible? Why are you only surrendering now? What were you doing so early? If not for the kidnapping of Xinyuan Irin and the matter of High Cloud Mountain. If you didn't plan so hard to wipe out Gantian Mountain, today this mysterious cloud spirit Xianling might have a chance to live. But now that things had come to this, even if he agreed, his subordinates and his father-in-law would never let the mysterious heaven sect go. Moreover, the killing intent in his chest was boiling, and he couldn't suppress it. Daoist Yuan Kong's breathing stopped for a moment before he let out a miserable laugh. If it was him, it would be absolutely impossible. This was a consequence of going too far. At this moment, the heaven-shaking laughter of the spirit talisman sect Daoist he sounded out from afar. Yuan Kong, do you remember that my spirit talisman sect said the same thing back then? As long as you leave some god-level experts for my sect, the spirit talisman sect is willing to be a vassal of the Lingyun sect and the mysterious firmament sect. Who would have thought that in just 20 years, I would be able to witness the mysterious spirit of mysterious cloud sect being reduced to such a state? How amusing, how sad and pitiful for this pinnacle space dome formation to be able to wipe out your mysterious cloud spirit sect. Retribution is really great. I, have nothing to fear in my life. Yuan Kong's eyes were filled with despair as he looked towards the sky, thinking about why the Shunshao ancestor still hadn't arrived. Could it be that something had happened in the outer realm? The heavens were really looking up to the clouds. Was it really retribution like retribution? If it wasn't for this layer of sky blocking, even if there were 4,000 blood cloud cavalry, their mysterious cloud spirit sect would have definitely had someone escape, to leave a seed for the sect to prosper. Zhong Shou looked at the other people, his heart calming down as he continued forwards towards the pinnacle lightning sky formation. At this moment, a tragic roar spread out in his ear. It was a grade 9 spirit cultivator who actually summoned a peak spirit beast of the same grade into his body. Then, his body swelled up. Lightning wrapped around his body as he struck over. Zhong Shou looked away. Taking a look at him, this was the beast merger technique. Merging with a spirit beast spiritual body, temporarily obtaining combat strength exceeding a grade 9 martial cultivator. The higher the bloodline grade of the spirit beast, the stronger its strength. What this person merged with was also a god-beast subspecies. His strength instantly rose to the same level as before when the 9 lightning winged tigers merged. A fist smashed forwards, causing wind to spread all about. Another black sword formed in Zhong Shou's hand as he casually waved it. His entire person flashed, and he was 10 steps away. At this moment, The cultivator had already separated from his soul beast. There were no other injuries on his body. Only a thread of blood appeared at the center of his brows. This sword directly pierced through his brain and destroyed his soul with a world-shocking spiral true energy. However, in front of Zhongsho's eyes, it was still a martial cultivator whose eyes were filled with madness as he struck out with the sword. Although the sword hadn't arrived, his entire body was bleeding. He was actually burning his essence, energy, and internal energy. Not only did it cause his strength to explosively increase, but that lightning sword intent was also strengthened to the extreme. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts gathered on the sword. Zhongsho didn't even bother to look. At this moment, he didn't have time to form a sword. Zhongsho decided to use a finger to forcefully shatter that sharp sword energy, following which his fingers clamped onto the sword, causing it to be unable to move. Using lightning glow to mix with the sky-burning flame, it was still the lightning blaze thousand flash. However, he went all out and injected it over. In a breath, this person's body was burned to ashes. He flicked out with his fingers, deflecting the few sword energies before he took another step forward. It was still one step, one grade 9. Although he was best at the sword, his soul body was still the Dharma soul of a spirit master. 18 spiritual talismans, along with the black and white whole Dharma, naturally suppressed many spirit masters. He continued forwards and arrived in front of the 10,000 lightning sky pinnacle formation. Suddenly, he felt an extremely venomous gaze looking over from afar. It was Zhongsho. His brows furrowed. He looked over, only to see that it was Han Nishui. At this moment, he was filled with hatred, rage, despair, pain, all sorts of emotions. His eyes were protruding out and filled with blood veins. All the muscles in his body were twisting. If someone with a slightly weaker will saw this, they would definitely be shocked. Although he still had a human form, this Han Nishui, actually, he couldn't be considered a human anymore. Zhongsho didn't care at all, waving out with a sword. Spiritual energy twisted. In an instant, it caused this originally incomplete 10,000 lightning sky pinnacle formation to start to shake. The spiritual energy within clashed, causing the energy channels to shake. The lightning ball in the center was also twisting. A portion of it lost control and spread out in all directions. Those mysterious cloud spirit sect disciples were the first to bear the brunt. Many corpses were smashed into pieces by the vast lightning glow. Han Nishui didn't die, but blood seeped out of his 7 orifices as he pounced over. "I will go all out with you." A claw grabbed down, causing the vast lightning ball to move. Along with Zhongsho, he swiftly descended. Then, a black sword light suddenly flashed in the air. Just like that, Han Nishui's body was sliced into 2. As for the lightning ball formed by the 10,000 lightning sky pinnacle formation behind him, it was sucked in by Zhongsho's sword. It caused a pair of purple lightning wings to spread out behind Zhongsho's back. This time, there was only a purple lightning glow. When spread out, the wings were 10,000 feet wide. With just a slight flap, it caused Zhongsho to fly 1,000 feet into the air. The vast sword intent suppressed 1,000 miles. To go all out with him, one needed to have enough ability. At this moment, the sword in his hand was invincible in this world. Looking down, Zhongsho's eyes suddenly lit up with joy, only to see a petite person walk out from a side hall. A silver spiritual shield revolved around her as she walked over. She was wearing the uniform of Pill Fountain Sect disciples. At this moment, no one went to stop her. It was the righteous and benevolent girl. She had grown up a little. After not seeing her for 2 years, he didn't feel distant at all. Basically, he had been thinking about her day and night. The moment he saw the girl, his heart actually skipped a beat. Zhongsho sighed in his heart. After thinking for a moment, he retracted the terrifying lightning wings behind him. He landed on the ground. Xinyuan Irin was startled as she looked over. She was still filled with heroic spirit. Coincidentally, she passed by where Han Nishui fell. Although his body was sliced into 2 by Zhongsho, he didn't die. Frowning, Xinyuan Irin sighed slightly. She swept her sword across and sliced off Han Nishue's head. Who knows if it was because she couldn't bear to see Han Nishue continue to be tortured by pain, or because she wanted to use this to vent the hatred in her heart. She only felt that her heart was at a loss. Irin, these two words were benevolent and righteous. She had always treated these two words as a standard. Only now did she realize that she couldn't do it. As long as it had something to do with that person, her heart would naturally be biased. Only when she unconsciously walked in front of Zhong Shou did her eyes light up. She came back to her senses, and her entire body felt light. "You came." It was an indifferent sentence, as if it was nothing out of the ordinary. At this moment, her watery eyes were smiling like crescent moons. "Oh, I came." Zhong Shou nodded his head slightly. He suddenly remembered something and smacked his head. Luckily, at this moment, Zhong Yuan had already led the 4,000 Blood Cloud cavalry and charged onto mysterious Cloud Mountain. Amongst them was his body. Zhong Shou pointed, and a golden light flew out from the heaven and earth bag and landed on Zhong Shou's soul body. It was a set of purple gold armor. It wasn't a spiritual artifact, but it looked really good. It made Zhong Shou look more and more heroic. He held a golden sword in his hand, looking really majestic and noble. He reached out and forcefully tore down a 5-colored auspicious cloud from the sky. Xinyuan Irin was startled, her eyes filled with confusion. "Zhong Shou, what are you doing?" Zhong Shou smiled, his eyes squinting into a line. "A while ago I passed by Xin Mountain City and asked for your hand. When I return, I will directly bring you back to Gantian Mountain to get married." Xinyuan Irin was still at a loss. Zhong Shou continued to explain, his smile becoming more and more evil. "Then, mother-in-law said that you loved to dream when you were young. You dreamt that there would be a fellow wearing purple gold armor and stepping on 5-colored auspicious clouds to marry you." As he said that, he casually waved his sword. "Isn't it like this?" Xinyuan Irin's face instantly flushed red, feeling really embarrassed. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. Chapter 540. She knew that Zhong Shou was teasing her. Xinyuan Irin was too lazy to bother with this lazy fellow. She scoffed, following which her eyes swept around the mountain peak. Moments later, her brows furrowed as she focused on the two of them. It was Xuandan and Eden. At this moment, they were hiding in a corner, their faces ashen white, devoid of blood. Zhong Shou stopped playing around with the gold sword, looking over along with her gaze. At the start, he didn't care much, just 2 grade 9 spirit masters. If one had to say what was different about them, it would be that the two of them were wearing the robes of Pill Fountain Sect. Since they were the culprits who captured Xinyuan Irin, naturally, he wouldn't let them go. Anyways, on this mountain, no matter what their identities were, they would all be wiped out. There was no need to purposely care about them. However, just as he was about to retract his gaze from the two of them, in his heart, he suddenly felt a sense of danger. Something isn't right," exclaiming, Zhong Shou didn't hesitate to flash over. Under the suppression of the sword, the two of them couldn't move at all. Then, the sword light swept, like breaking dry branches, the spell barrier that Xuandan and Eden created, as well as the protector beasts, were all broken. Although the two of them were grade 9, their combat strength was unexpectedly weak. Although they were late true image spirit masters, they were only similar to initial ones. Zhong Shou easily grabbed the Xuandan and Xuandan in his hand. Looking at the two of them, Zhong Shou was in deep thought. However, before he thought of an idea, suddenly, 2 balls of Yin wind rose up from the apertures behind their heads. A sharp glow flashed in Zhong Shou's eyes. Without waiting for them to dodge, he grabbed out and tore open space, piercing into the void. He forcefully captured the 2 spiritual lights that were about to escape from the space layer. So that was the case. They should be the shadow god race of the outer region. Xinyuan Irin had already flown beside Zhong Shou. When she heard that, she was startled, her face filled with confusion. Shadow god race? What is the meaning of this? As the name suggests, they're a race that only has shadows. He believed that he was a god and should be above the other races. That was why he called himself the Shadow God. However, other people regard them as demons, and call them the afterimage demons. Zhongsho explained seriously. It wasn't strange that Xianyuan Irin didn't recognize him. This alien race had never appeared in the Cloud world during the Cloud Desolate era. After all, Irin was still young and had never been to the outer region, so she naturally didn't know. In fact, he had only seen him in virtual reality and had fought with him a few times, but had never seen him in person. Actually, their battle prowess was not very strong. What was difficult to guard against was their innate ability. All of them are infamous in the various worlds. It was formless and formless. Only during the day or under the moonlight would a shadow exist. They didn't have a physical body, so they would seize another person's body and use it as a host to survive. The most frightening thing is at night. Host? Seizing another person's body? Xianyuan Irin seemed to have thought of something, her expression changing. This means that Shuandon and Senior Master, Eden, actually, they died long ago. Zhongsho continued, coldly saying one sentence and judging the current situation of the two of them. Xianyuan Irin's face was filled with both joy and sadness. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Knowing that the internal strife within the sect wasn't due to internal reasons was naturally something to be happy about. However, thinking about how Shuandon and Eden had died long ago. Within the sect, who knows how many people had their bodies stolen by this afterimage demon race. She couldn't be happy. At this moment, Zhongsho's expression was really solemn. He didn't expect that this afterimage demon race would actually hide within the Cloud world so early before the spiritual wave started. He who came from 10,000 years in the future was naturally really clear about the dangers of this race. He remembered that in the future, the most recorded alien race was this afterimage demon race. Afterimage god demon? In the void, Alcuin also exclaimed in surprise. Although he was using his own strength to suppress several god realm and dozens of celestial realm cultivators, he was still able to do it. However, he was still at ease and his expression was calm. He could be distracted and pay attention to the lower world. If it really was this race, then the Cloud world was really in trouble this time. However, the life and death of this world had nothing to do with him. The only thing he had to do with was Zhongsho and that person. Thinking about it in his heart, Ao Kuan casually waved his hand. His sleeves smacked onto a knife. An unblockable strength instantly smashed it into pieces. Then, with a loud explosion, his physical body was smashed apart. The destruction laws that he had totally sealed off this god realm martial cultivator's rebirth ability. At this moment, Ao Kuan had totally lost interest in continuing to tangle with these people. He raised his fingers and pointed out. Instantly, several celestial realm cultivators died. Then, he punched out towards Daoist divine firmament. The latter's face was devoid of blood. He tried his best to resist. At the same time, he detonated all the magical treasures and celestial artifacts in front of him to block Ao Kuan's heavy fist. Instantly, there were many explosions in the air. Xinxiao's body retreated, but in the end, he was still unable to block that fist. It looked like a normal strike, but it caused the stacked space to nearly collapse. It also caused all the spiritual talismans, all the magical treasures, and celestial artifacts to be blown away. In the end, the fist wind smashed onto Xinxiao's body. Instantly, blood droplets scattered all about. A large portion of them were instantly destroyed. However, there were still dozens of drops that scattered all about. You want to escape? Laughing coldly, Ao Kuan's hand swelled up. It turned into a 10,000 feet long dragon claw and grabbed. A suction force appeared in the center of the claw. He took all the dozens of drops of essence blood into his hand. Only one drop was still swiftly fleeing. In an instant, it passed through several layers of space. He knew that this was most probably Xinxiao's life essence blood. As long as this drop of essence blood didn't scatter, there would be a chance for him to revive. In a few hundred or decades, he would be able to recover to normal. With enough essence chi and the help of top celestial pills, he could even recover in a day. Ao Kuan shook his head when he saw this. To think he could escape in front of a destruction saint realm expert Wasn't that a joke? If this fellow really escaped, then he, A.O. Kuan, wouldn't be called a saint. Just as he was about to grab once more, A.O. Kuan's ears shook. He felt a woman's voice ring out in his ear. He listened quietly and then helplessly retracted his hand. He looked on as Shunxiao's drop of life essence blood left and continued to head towards the cloud world. He thought to himself, Zhongsho, Zhongsho, it isn't that I don't want to help you. It is that person who doesn't want me, A.O. Kuan, to help. Who knows what his intentions are? After being heavily injured, he was close to death. Even if he landed in the cloud world, he was just late spirit realm. With Zhongsho's ability, you should be able to take it, right? He didn't dare to be sure. However, he could only look on apologetically from outside and observe carefully. If there was danger, he would be able to save him at any moment. However, the essence blood in his hand, A.O. Kuan let out a hollow laugh and clenched his fist, shattering the blood into pieces. Suddenly, his mind moved slightly. A.O. Kuan could sense that the essence blood of Shunxiao was within the essence blood. The moment he broke through the barrier outside of the cloud world. In the void of the cloud world, there were a few auras no weaker than him, some even stronger than him who rushed over. A.O. Kuan's brow rose up. He knew that it was most probably the four world protectors. In the blink of an eye, he figured out what that woman was trying to do. His expression changed slightly, and then he burst out into a laugh. A.O. Kuan loved such things the most and was happy to see them. Zhongsho didn't know that danger was about to arrive. Xinyuan Iren thought about it seriously for a moment, temporarily placing down the changes in her sect. Her brows furrowed as she looked forward. Since the Blood Cloud Cavalry came up the mountain, it was a one-sided massacre. The Blood Cloud Cavalry didn't bother about the low-grade disciples. Just the blood mist that spread out could take their lives. Their true targets were those grade 6 and grade 7 and above cultivators. Just the two of them speaking, and in that short moment, a large portion of the grade 6 cultivators on the mountain peak had fallen. Those grade 5 and below all died under the blood mist. Only a few hundred people were able to escape from the mountain peak. However, before they were able to escape, they died outside the mountain at the hands of the Seven Spirits sect and Kongqi sect cultivators. Only Yuan Kong and the remaining 7 grade 9 cultivators, along with the hundreds of remaining cultivators, were still forming up to resist. However, they were just 15 to 30 minutes away from being wiped out. No matter how many Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect people died, she wouldn't care. Since Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect and Lingyun Sect wanted to kill Zhongsho, they used such despicable methods. Since they had used such despicable methods, then all the cultivators on the mountain peak had to pay the price. There were no innocent people. What made her frown was the 2 blood-kill twin flags that were dancing in the wind. Large amounts of vital energy gathered on it, causing the blood and kill words to become more and more eye-catching. She knew that not only were they 2 flags, but they were also 2 extremely strong artifacts. At this moment, they were still in the nurturing stage, but once they were formed, it could cause the power of the Blood Cloud Cavalry to multiply. The more vital energy it absorbed, the stronger it would be. Actually, we can let go of those scattered elite troops. Those people are already terrified and won't dare to be enemies with Gantian Mountain. As long as you are willing, you can use them for yourself. Zhongsho was delighted and knew that Xinyuan Iren was trying to persuade him. However, he didn't show any signs of letting go. I said just now that the blood kill flag is raised. Within a day, I won't seal my blade. His words were firm and couldn't be doubted. In his heart, he was already planning to let these people go. He wasn't a crazy person who liked to kill. The remaining 2 million people didn't pose a threat to Gantian Mountain, and there was no benefit in killing them. Mysterious Cloud Spirit sect being wiped out and the various sects being wiped out was enough to shock Gantian Mountain. At this moment, he just needed to kill their leader and didn't need to vent his anger on these people. However, he couldn't say such things out loud. He just needed to act like he saw it and wait for a day before letting them leave. As for whether or not he could use them for himself, he had to wait and see. Although he thought that way in his heart, he definitely couldn't agree to it after this girl persuaded him. He had his own principles and wouldn't be easily swayed by others. Chapter 541. Xinyuan Irin held her breath and frowned. She knew that it was impossible to change Zhongshu's mind. She knew that although Zhongshu looked easy to talk to, if he had his mind set, he wouldn't be influenced by others. He was a little stubborn, even she was the same. This concerned his prestige, so he wouldn't let go. She didn't try to persuade him, her tone changing. I only feel that this blood-kill twin flags is too cruel. In the future, if you can use it less, it is best if you don't. Okay. Zhongshu nodded his head. There was no need, and he didn't like it. Irin, since you say to use it less, then we will try to use it less. Only then did Xinyuan Irin smile. She knew that Zhongshu was just going with the flow, but she still felt really happy. She thought about something. Oh, right. During these 2 years, I have been thinking about how to cure the poison of the spirit salamander. Recently, I have some ideas. If it is as I think, then the newly refined spirit salamander blood essence pill will not only have a low toxicity, but its effects will also be raised by close to 70%. She looked at the blood cloud cavalry. Even the poison in the bodies of your subjects can be removed. Zhongshu was startled, following which his lips curled up. He thought to himself that this was interesting. Removing the poison meant that these martial ancestors could improve a step above their current level. After the medicinal effects of the spirit salamander blood essence pill were strengthened, it would most probably have a huge effect on grade 5 cultivators. Not long later, he would have 2 more large mind stone veins in his hands. As for the other medium and small size veins, he would have tens of them. Maybe he wouldn't be able to occupy them all, but he would be able to obtain a large portion. A blood cloud cavalry made up of grade 6 cultivators? He was looking forward to it. However, following which helplessness appeared in her eyes. However, this recipe is tough to prepare. The most important thing is that it needs the blood of a god beast that can go up against the spirit salamander, which means that it needs to be ranked no lower than the spirit salamander and must be at the saint realm. When Zhongshu heard that, his expression instantly turned from hope to despair. Where'd he find the blood of a saint realm god beast? In his memory, he really couldn't remember any instance dungeon that contained the blood of a saint stage divine beast. As for him, those sage stage beasts probably wouldn't even need to lift a finger. A single look from them would be enough to crush him to death. Unless they asked for it from the sect, this was a last resort. The more he owed Song Shengdao, the more entangled he would be with this traitorous sect. Song Shengdao's disciples were mostly extreme in their actions. There were some things that even he couldn't bear to watch and didn't want to get involved. Suddenly, a thought flashed across his mind as he thought about something. His palms clapped together with a pa sound. His eyes narrowed as he smiled and looked in a certain direction in the distance. He thought to himself that he was really stupid. Wasn't there a saint realm god beast in outer space right now? The true dragon of destruction should not be inferior to the spirit salamander, right? If he really had no other choice, he could only ask that person for some charity. After all, the dragon race had a lot of blood. Just outside the void, Alcuin felt an inexplicable chill all over his body, and he shuddered. It was like something extremely terrifying was staring at him. He used his spiritual sense to investigate, but he was unable to understand the reason. He could only shake his head at a loss. At this moment, Zhongshu's brows were tightly furrowed, and a sharp glow appeared in his eyes. His spiritual sense had already sensed an unusually strong and dangerous aura. It had already broken through the world. That was a drop of essence blood. However, the moment it appeared, it caused everyone's heart to jump, and they all felt suffocated. God Realm, the life essence blood of a peak God Realm cultivator. With A.O. Kuin's Saint Realm strength, how would he let this Shunshao sect settle down in the cloud world? His heart was filled with questions. Zhongshu didn't hesitate at all. His soul flashed, and he tossed aside those golden armor and golden swords. He returned to his physical body and once again picked up that blood-color halberd. Who knew that there would be such a dangerous battle when the mysterious cloud spirit sect was about to be wiped out? However, Zhongsho wasn't afraid at all. The Blood Cloud Cavalry was able to suppress an entire world during the Cloud Desolate era and destroy numerous sections. It wasn't just because of their ability to suppress low-grade cultivators. It was also because they had the ability to go up against top cultivators. With a thought, the thousands of Blood Cloud Cavalry that were connected to him swiftly gathered once more. Amidst a series of explosions, countless spirit channels were formed between the crowd once again. The thousands of Blood Cloud Cavalry once again merged into one. Yuan Kong laughed out loud. It is Shunshao ancestor, our third-generation ancestor, Shunshao Jinren. The heavens have opened their eyes. Our mysterious cloud spirit sect finally has a chance to live. Zhongsho didn't care, casually waving his halberd and instantly gathering the strength of thousands of people to strike the remnant formation with Yuan Kong at the helm. Hong! The spiritual energy all around was shaking nonstop. Invisible ripples spread all about. Yuan Kong's body was instantly turned into a blood rain. The other cultivators were mostly turned into red powder. Only less than 10 people were left. However, they were all on their last breaths, unable to fight back anymore. At this moment, the blood pearls that suddenly appeared in the air. Immediately, a mournful wail was heard. It was filled with endless anger, as if a ferocious beast was about to die. Zhongsho still didn't panic, injecting soul power into the blood and kill flags. With a wave of his hand, the vast soul power was drawn in, following which a bright light flashed. A layer of blood-colored spiritual light instantly covered the 4,200 Blood Cloud Cavalry. At this moment, that drop of essence blood also charged down, directly occupying the body of a heavily injured Shunshao cultivator. When Zhongsho saw the situation, he laughed coldly. This was what he wanted. He left these people alive to draw it over, just as that cultivator's consciousness wasn't totally taken over. He waved his halberd once more. It turned into thousands of feet in the air as it slashed down heavily. Apart from the killing path halberd intent of the Blood Cavalry kill, it also had the ability to swallow heaven and earth. Another thunderous boom rang out, and the sound of the boom could be heard from 100 miles away. The person who was possessed by the essence blood was instantly turned into dust. Even a few people beside him were all turned into blood by the remnant energy of the halberd energy. That drop of blood scoffed. Helplessly, it didn't search for people to possess it. It just manifested a soul shadow. Then its aura continued to climb, like there was no end to it, suppressing this part of the world. Zhongsho squinted, waving his sleeves and keeping Xinyuan Irin into his Lingjia ring. A trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. This person's strength actually climbed above the spirit realm. The suppressive power of the cloud world seemed to have been forcefully pushed aside. It wasn't just grade 9, just like Wei Su. Luckily, there was that moment of delay. Tens of miles away, Kongqi's sect and Seven Spirits sect had both opened up their formations. Close to 70,000 Gantian mountain cavalry were under their protection. They didn't need to worry about anything else in this battle. They just needed to go all out to fight against this Shunshao. At this moment, in the sky, above the clouds, there was a place where one couldn't see with their eyes. A Confucian-dressed old man had his hands behind his back, frowning as he looked at the peak of mysterious Cloud Mountain, his eyes filled with unhappiness. Spirit realm strength. He has already crossed the limits of a world. This Shunshao is really messing around. No wonder he is like that. Mysterious cloud spirit sects close to 7,000 years of hard work was wiped out by this Gantian and mountain monster king. If I were him, I would go crazy. The person who spoke was a young man. His face was filled with a hint of evil intent, and it was filled with schadenfreude. This Zhongsho is really amazing. One step, one grade 9. I remember 2 years ago, when he was beside Wei Su, he was just Xiantian. To be able to revive the Blood Cloud Cavalry, the Donglin cloud continent, that Ling Yun's sect spent so much effort to develop, is probably going to be handed over to someone else. It really makes one feel good. When the blood-killing flag is raised, blood will flow for 1,000 miles. Today, he killed 1,000,000. What a sin. This Gantian mountain ruler looked okay in the past. However, now that he is under Tsang Xingdao, his actions are so violent, disappointing. What a waste. A monk at the side was filled with emotions. He bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind, like he was really feeling pity. His white brows rose up. Then do we have to suppress Xin Xiao? There was nothing they could do about the suppression of the cloud world. Then they could only act to suppress him back to Grade 9. World-protecting venerables was an agreement between the ancient cultivators of the cloud world. They had the duty to protect this world and also had the ability to do so. When the Confucian heard that, he frowned slightly and didn't say anything. On the other hand, the girl opposite him smiled. Why don't we wait for a while more? Shun Xiao is badly injured, and his current strength is at most spirit realm peak. Even if something happens within the pinnacle space dome formation, it is okay. Just a short while is enough. The Confucian-dressed old man still didn't speak. The monk also kept silent. However, the gazes of the three of them all turned towards the teen. The latter smiled, showing no intention to reject. Then, what benefits do I have here? How about a demon breath life-ending pill? The green-dressed girl turned around. Tsang Xingdao betrayed the Dao and is also the enemy of your demon sect. This Zhong Shou is the second-generation direct disciple of Tsang Xingdao. If this sect prospers, it won't be good for your demon sect. You really have confidence in that Shen Xiao. The teen scoffed. However, he didn't feel that Zhong Shou would be able to go against Shun Xiao, who was close to going crazy. However, if we do things like this, we are a little biased. I am only afraid that the two outside won't be willing to let the matter rest. What a joke. One has just reached Saint Realm, and the other is a little problematic. However, if he is unable to let go of his heart demon within a few decades, he will definitely die. Why do we need to care so much? The green-dressed girl shook her head, her expression filled with disdain. Even if we are biased, what can they do? The teen asked curiously. Shen Xiao's drop of life essence blood came at such a coincidence. No matter how I thought about it, I didn't expect that Shun Xiao would be able to escape from the hands of A.O. Cohen. Fairy, don't you find it weird? When she heard the last sentence, her expression turned cold. Isn't it just Tsang Xingdao testing the four of us? What is there to fear? Tsang Xingdao only has one end realm, and he is thousands of worlds away. At this moment, Wei Su has also been seen through. I want to see who can deal with the two of us. If there is anything, I will just shoulder it and take care of it. I think that Zhong Shou won't be able to last for half an hour. We just need to take his life as punishment, and no one can say anything about it. The teen smiled when he heard that and didn't say anything more. He had the intention to go with the flow. Chapter 542. I hate the heavens. The mysterious cloud, spiritual talisman, was filled with grievous energy. It gathered up a huge amount of soul suppression and spread 1,000 miles around. The entire pinnacle space dome formation couldn't take it anymore, and cracks appeared. In the center of the heaven tomb, Tiando and Lieha were bleeding from their 7 orifices. However, they were all giggling as they continued to inject their soul power into the golden plate in a crazed manner. They squeezed out all the essence energy in their bodies. The two of them didn't know whether or not Zhong Shou could hold on under Shen Xiao's hands. They only knew that at this moment, it would be good if they could make this pinnacle space dome formation last for a while longer. They had to go all out to block out the lightning element spiritual energy. The dark clouds in the sky surged, and tens of thousands of lightning bolts struck down. Pretty much each strike was far stronger than a grade 9 cultivator who specialized in lightning techniques. Shen Xiao's primordial spirit appeared 20,000 feet above the ground. Numerous purple lightning bolts wrapped around his body. Using lightning as a sword, He gathered 1,000 feet sword body. His aura was still rising, and he was becoming more and more maniacal. His dermic powers also seemed to be endless. Zhong Shou kept silent, his eyes half closed as he silently stored up energy. Time after time, he sorted out the energy connections between the Blood Cloud Cavalry, continuously optimizing the structure. He merged the strength of thousands of Blood Cloud Cavalry into one, using every bit of energy in the bodies of the 4,250 people, especially those 200 grade 5 spirit masters within the Blood Cloud Cavalry. He tried to mix this soul power with the internal energy of the people. If it was before, he wouldn't be able to do that no matter what. However, at this moment, after he was able to control the spirit and martial arts merger, he was able to easily merge them. Shun Zhao's desolate and arrogant laughter continued in the sky. Good. Dead. They were all dead. They were all dead. That's great. I'm the only one left in the entire sect. Master. Oh, Master. Shun Zhao is useless. Mysterious cloud spirit sects, 7,000 years of foundations were wiped out in a day. All gone. Zhong Shou kid, do you know that people who destroy human paths are life and death enemies? His gaze landed coldly on Zhong Shou's body. Before Zhong Shou replied, his face became unusually vicious. His voice was extremely dark and cold, like he was gritting his teeth, like it came from the depths of the earth. Today, even if I use all the water in the oceans and lakes to rip you into pieces, it won't be enough to appease my hatred. I won't let you die like this. It will peel off all your skin, slice off your flesh piece by piece, and feed it to that wild dog. Also, your origin soul will be roasted by the flames for all eternity. He slashed down viciously. The 1,000 purple sword swelled Zhong Shou's body. Boundless electric currents shot out in all directions, stirring up dust and destroying all living things. Zhong Shou and the Blood Cloud Cavalry behind him were all drowned. However, Zhong Shou, the aura it gave off was no weaker than that vast lightning sword, merging the 9 true dragon swords into the halberd technique to gather up vital energy. This halberd, yellow blood halberd, when the lightning struck the yellow light, it immediately scattered in all directions and was guided into the ground. When this layer of earth energy gathered by the halberd intent was forcefully broken and clashed with the blood light, its aura was greatly weakened. With a loud explosion, the entire heaven and earth shook. The entire mysterious cloud mountain pretty much collapsed. Fortunately, this was a spiritual dwelling, so the space at the peak of the mountain only shook for a moment before returning to normal. When the spiritual explosions and thunderbolts that filled the sky completely dissipated, Li Yunmu's eyes lit up. The 4,200 blood cavalry were perfectly fine. On the other hand, the lightning wings behind Zhong Shou expanded a little. Shou didn't care at all, laughing maniacally. Die. All of you die. After one sword, there was another. The aura was vast. The purple lightning within the lightning sword increased by close to 30%. Sword after sword was endless, crazily slashing down like a storm. There was no order to it at all. Even if a spirit realm or celestial realm expert was here, his head would feel numb. Pretty much without needing to take a breather, that giant purple sword shadow didn't stop at all. It caused Tianqi, who was looking in the distance, to break out in cold sweat. With such an attack, the Blood Cloud Cavalry covered in lightning would have all died. He raised his head and looked into the sky uneasily. Descending to the cloud world with spirit realm strength has already gone against the agreement. Why haven't the few venerables arrived? If they allowed this lunatic to continue to go on like this, no one within this pinnacle space dome formation would be able to survive. It isn't that they haven't arrived. It is normal that they are late. Shui Lingxiao shook her head. She knew what was going on. Only when Zhong Shou died would they arrive. Who asked Zhong Shou to join their Tsang Xingdao? Tianqi didn't understand, but he felt even more uneasy. As for Xin Yuan Tong and the others, their eyes were filled with worry. However, with the current situation, they didn't even need to think about interfering. However, in the next instance, when everyone thought that even if Zhong Shou wasn't dead, the situation wouldn't be good, they saw a blood-red halberd shadow charge out from the lightning glow. It was still outside of the blood glow, covered in a yellow glow, using the density of the earth to break the explosion of the lightning. However, within this halberd, there was a thick golden glow. Kong Yao's eyelids jumped when she saw this. It was the Emperor Martial Path. The king energy of the entire Donglin cloud continent was slowly gathering around Zhong Shou, causing his aura to slowly break through the limits of the spirit realm. She knew that this heaven and earth didn't have a consciousness, but it was able to maintain the balance and protect itself. That suppressive force was unable to suppress Shen Xiao. At this moment, the dragon energy of heaven and earth was gathering towards Zhong Shou at an even faster rate. When this halberd went out, in that instance, it caused the tens of thousands of lightning glow to dissipate. The 4250 Blood Cloud Cavalry were still standing on the spot perfectly fine. Only their faces were slightly ashen white. Zhong Shou's wings had expanded to 14,000 feet. It was also mixed with numerous blood energy. At this moment, it was purple-red. Accumulating such a scale of lightning should have caused a backlash. However, at this moment, Zhong Shou felt that he still had strength left and could continue to expand. Who knows if it was because of the Blood Cloud Cavalry formation or because he had attracted the Emperor energy to buff his body. Also, the halberd in his hand was becoming more and more easy to use. As expected, in the martial path, all weapons, all theories were one with a million laws and were interconnected. The more he used it, the more he was suppressed by Shen Xiao, the more familiar he felt with this halberd. A large half of the sword martial intent he grasped could be displayed on this blood-colored halberd. Shen Xiao was startled when he saw the situation, following which he became even more furious, his attitude becoming even more maniacal. "Why aren't you dead? Why aren't you dead?" That aura arose once more. The dark clouds in the sky continued to expand. Numerous purple lightning bolts gathered over. They struck towards the Blood Cloud Cavalry formation. The sword in Shen Xiao's hand slashed down once more. It wasn't limited to lightning techniques, but all sorts of spells were used at his fingertips. With a raging wave-like aura, it covered the sky as it struck down. Once more, it covered the bodies of the Blood Cloud Cavalry within. The sound of countless spiritual explosions rang out incessantly. A cold glow flashed in Zhong Shou's eyes. It was actually filled with a smile. Following which he slowly became excited. His fighting spirit was like a wave. It was tough to find an opponent. So wasn't someone like Shen Xiao suitable? He could use this person to train his martial path. The halberd waved out, and the sky instantly became silent once more. All of the lightning, all of the spells were destroyed. Shen Xiao, who was in the sky, was also stunned. Tens of thousands of feet away, Tianqi sucked in a cold breath. This was obviously the soul of the halberd's sense. Based on what he knew, to be able to grasp the soul of the martial path, if one wasn't at the middle of the spirit realm, they would be at the peak. He instantly understood. No wonder the Blood Cloud Cavalry could last for so long. At this moment, they were only at a slight disadvantage. Using the halberd soul level martial path intent to unify the Blood Cloud Cavalry formation, they could go up against spirit realm experts. However, in his heart, he couldn't help but feel shocked. Cultivator Ling Xiao, I remember the Monster King. What he is best at should be the sword, right? Shui Ling Xiao acknowledged and didn't reply. Tianqi's voice continued. Ruler's halberd skills have entered the soul realm. Then what about his sword martial intent? Shui Ling Xiao turned her head. She knew that Zhong Shou and Osamu Hara were fighting. The sword soul realm had actually broken through to the intermediate level. However, it was best if she didn't say such things. I don't know. Maybe the reason Ruler used the sword in the past was to deceive others. That might not be the case. Tianqi remained silent and then stared into the distance. He only felt that Shen Xiao's aura was becoming more and more indiscernible, filled with impatience and impatience. This was already the peak of the spirit realm, close to the celestial realm, at the same time, outside of the void, where two girls stood. The girl in the palace dress was laughing coldly. Half a step to celestial realm. This Shanxiao is really crazy. How amusing. Isn't that what senior sister wants? We need him to go all out for this show to continue. The other girl shook her head. One couldn't see any expression. Only her eyes were filled with a teasing expression. Now, let's see what decision they will make. What else can we do? We can only continue to hold on. She waved her sleeves, and a red needle, as thin as a cow's hair, appeared in front of her. If other Saint Realm cultivators were here, they would be able to sense that it was mixed with annihilation, frost, blazing flame, and various other grandeurs. However, when they used their spiritual sense to sense, they were unable to sense any traces of it. The eyes of the girl in the palace dress were filled with ice that couldn't be melted. I remember that when senior brother fell in the cloud world, even if it was just slightly crossing the line, the six of them wouldn't allow it. Compared to today, isn't it unfair? The girl's expression dimmed slightly, following which she said playfully, "Unfortunately, Yuan Wushang is far away from the cloud world. If the few of them knew about this disciple of mine, they would definitely kill him. Not only is he at the intermediate level of the Sword Soul, but he is also Grass Spirit and Martial Arts Merger. They will probably regret what happened today. I am really looking forward to it. I am bullying them because they don't know." The woman then looked in front of her, her coldness increasing. "I reckon they won't have the chance to regret it either." Chapter 543. At this moment, aside from the rage, hatred, and the desire to destroy everything, Shun Xiao gradually felt unbearable. He only felt that at this moment, the group of people below who were like ants in his eyes were like stones that couldn't be broken or smashed. No matter how he struck, what spells he used, he was helpless. That Zhongshou seemed to have a way to deal with it. That Blood Halberd's illusions were always able to break his spells. They looked like they were being suppressed by him, unable to fight back at all. However, they were like needles hidden in cotton. Each time, there would be some strength that would sweep back like a wave. He could only continue to raise his strength and continue to suppress it. There was also that pair of lightning wings behind his back, which had spread out a full 20,000 feet. Not only did it protect the thousands of blood cavalry behind him, for some reason, it gave one a feeling of extreme danger that spread out from the depths of their soul. It caused Xinxiao's close to crazy spiritual sense to regain some rationality. How did this happen? How did this Zhongshou grasp the halberd soul? Impossible. Impossible. Next would be that pair of lightning wings. Why did it feel so dangerous? Not afraid, right? There was no need to be afraid. Even if he went all out, it would just be the strike of a peak spirit realm cultivator. What was there to worry about? I want to kill this person. I have to kill this person. Halberd soul? What a good halberd soul realm. As expected from the person who could wipe out my mysterious cloud spirit sect. There is actually such a genius in this world. That's good. Killing you is more interesting. Yu Zhongshou should have had a huge future. One day, you could even become a saint. What a waste, haha. His words were incoherent. He didn't reply at all. Xinxiao's eyes were once again filled with craziness. He suddenly took half a step forward, and the space around him immediately collapsed. Between the countless fragments of space, traces of blood-red aura continued to pour in. That was the blood energy he left in the outer region. Even if Ao Kuan tried his best to destroy it, there was still some left. Even after it scattered, it was still under his control. The suppression of heaven and earth became stronger and stronger, like it was going all out to force him out of the cloud world. However, Xunxiao was not afraid. From a moment the mysterious cloud sect was destroyed, there was nothing in this world that could make him afraid. There was only one thought left in his mind, and that was revenge. Everything that stood in his way would be destroyed. Boom! The yuan qi between heaven and earth exploded. The pinnacle space dome formation finally could not hold on any longer and began to shatter inch by inch. As for Tian Dolai, he and the group of spirit talisman sect cultivators, they all spat out a mouthful of blood that contained fragments of their internal organs. Fortunately, at this moment, a surge of magic power poured in from nowhere. It was vast and unparalleled, causing the broken sky dome formation to recover once more. It didn't cause the strong wind here to spread out. Tian Chi couldn't help but clench his fists. He could feel the intense pressure that was more than 10 times stronger spreading out. The entire earth seemed to have been pressed down by this vast soul pressure by several feet. Just now, the cultivators under him were barely able to resist. At this moment, most of them were staring blankly. Tian Chi knew that these disciples with lower cultivation bases might not even be able to maintain a normal state of mind. Celestial realm, that power definitely broke through to the celestial realm. Then, was Zhongshou dead or alive? Just as such a thought rose up in Tian Chi's mind. Above the clouds, in the space that one couldn't see, that monk-robed male frowned. This Shun Xiao is probably a little too much. Spirit realm strength could be said to be because the pinnacle space dome formation and the mysterious cloud spiritual house covered his aura, and he wasn't able to rush over in time. At this moment, he had broken through to the celestial realm boundary and couldn't say that he didn't know. The other three were all silent. The situation today was slowly going out of their control. He actually comprehended the halberd intense soul realm. Why is this Zong Shou the disciple of Tsang Xingdao? That Kenzo sect head is usually really smart. Why did he make such a mistake this time? The Confucian-robed old man frowned. Compared to Tsang Xingdao, he would rather this kid come from the Kenzo sect, which was slowly on the same level as the Taoist faction. I don't care. That teen smiled and didn't care at all. Be it the cloud world or the thousands of worlds in this region, the heaven and earth path was all about balance. Where there was light, there was darkness. Where there was righteous, there was demon. Where there was good, there was evil. Since Tsang Xingdao had such a talent like Zhong Shou, then within the demon path, there would definitely be people who could go up against him. These were the laws of heaven and earth. When the void of this region was opened up, it was already set. To him, be it the righteous sect or Tsang Xingdao, they were all huge enemies. This was why he really didn't care. No matter which sect this Zhong Shou came from, it didn't matter. In my eyes, this matter can be ended. If we continue to let that Shun Xiao do whatever he wants, it won't be easy for us to explain. The Confucian and the monk didn't speak. Then, they looked towards the woman in green with a questioning expression. The latter smiled sweetly. In your eyes, how long can this Zhong Shou last in the hands of Shin Xiao? The moment these words were said, the teen knew what she meant. He smiled. Then what fairy means is to wait a little longer and let this kid die here. With Zhong Shou's halberd intense soul realm, when he was at the spirit realm, you might be able to fight him. However, once he entered the celestial realm, he wouldn't be able to last 3 breaths. A cold intent appeared on the face of the woman in green. If this kid is still alive, I will feel really uneasy. This is why it is best for him to die. What does it matter? I will take responsibility for it. The monk and the Confucian both raised their brows and calmed down once more. That's right. It is best if such a person doesn't exist in the world. Shocking talent. Even the heavens are jealous of him. It doesn't make sense. Delaying for a few more breaths wasn't a big deal. However, although they made up their minds, the two of them still felt uneasy. Especially the latter, who frowned slightly. He felt that something wasn't right. However, no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of a reason. He only knew that the current Zhong Shou was too calm. It was like he was allowing Shan Xiao to continue to raise his strength. Shouldn't he be stopping all of it? The lightning wings that had already expanded to 24,000 feet were still storing up strength and not releasing it. The power of the blood cloud cavalry formation was also more condensed and concentrated. Everyone was really calm. Compared to Shin Xiao, his thoughts were in a mess. When he broke through, his strength and soul power couldn't help but become chaotic. Just going against the suppression of heaven and earth consumed close to 90% of his strength. Pretty much all his potential All his essence energy was sucked out to go against it, just to strike once he reached the celestial realm. Oh, that's not right. Suddenly, the Confucian-dressed old man stood up in a loss of composure. Looking closely at the 4,000 blood cloud cavalry, they were a little different from before. At this moment, within the cavalry formation, there were originally some isolated spirit masters. At this moment, they merged their soul and vital energy into one. At this moment, the aura wasn't obvious, but the old man could clearly feel it. When the internal energy and soul power of the cultivator mixed and fermented, that close to exploding strength swelled. This is spirit and martial arts merging into one. Suddenly, the Confucian-dressed old man comprehended. So Zhongsho had been holding back from start to finish. He looked like he had no strength to fight back, but he was actually suppressing Shunshao to continue to raise his strength, until a large portion of his strength was used to go against the suppression of heaven and earth. His schemes were actually so vicious. Just as he was about to speak, he felt an even more majestic aura suddenly spread over from the sky. In a thousandth of a second, it covered the entire void. The Confucian-dressed old man couldn't say anything, only to hear a girl's voice giggle. What a good show. I remember you all always said that as the ruler of a world, you would treat all sentient beings in the world the same and treat them equally. So it was such a way of treating everyone equally. Now, what do you all have to say? The expressions of the monk and the young man who were sitting across from each other changed. The green-dressed girl's face was devoid of blood. Without an exception, a spiritual light spread out and struck down toward Shinshao. Only the old man sighed helplessly. Pretty much at the same time, the hundreds of miles around mysterious cloud mountain turned dark. Even if it was inches away, one couldn't see anything. Tianchi was at a loss. Not only was he unable to use his eyes to look, but he couldn't even spread out his spiritual sense. He could only roughly feel that violent and blazing presence. He could only think in his heart. So a celestial realm cultivator was so strong. Zhongsho, who was at the peak of the mountain, suddenly spat out a deep breath. He didn't know who it was that covered this place, and also the sky. However, the timing was just right. The pair of lightning wings behind his back turned into thousands of lightning bolts and gathered on the halberd. All the vital energy was sucked over. At the tip of the halberd, there was a dark spot that couldn't be seen. This halberd was the spirit and martial arts merger of the Blood Cloud Cavalry. It was also the one origin dark halberd. There was an explosion. The halberd shadow was a step ahead and struck in front of Shinshao, who had just crossed the threshold of celestial realm. First, lightning and lightning clashed. Then, vital energy and internal energy clashed. The halberd in Zhongsho's hand relied on his senses to slash into the chaotic internal energy and spiritual sense. It swam and sliced within like it was really easy. Only when it couldn't advance any further did the black hole Dharma at the tip of the halberd explode out, only to hear Shinshao cry out with all his strength. Vast and boundless vital energy and energy, even spiritual sense, surged in from the halberd, such that Zhongsho's body couldn't take it all. He could only spread it through the surrounding spiritual channels into the bodies of the thousands of blood cloud cavalry behind him. At this moment, he could feel that Shinxiao's aura was swiftly disappearing. From celestial realm to spirit realm peak to intermediate realm and then to grade 9. Zhongsho's heart was cold, expressionless. He was already prepared for the next halberd, the one origin white halberd. After the endless darkness, it was the endless light. However, in the end, he was startled. When the halberd pulled back, Shinxiao's consciousness had totally dissipated. The remaining essence energy was also sucked over by him. He only felt really weird. So this god realm cultivator was already so weak. However, time was still in the sky. The monk-robed male was totally distracted. Endless darkness, unlimited light. The person who caused the omen was actually him. He was filled with unspeakable joy and annoyance. Chapter 544. The green-clothed woman frowned. Her heart palpitated uncontrollably for a moment, and she was filled with annoyance. This teen not only had unlimited light and unlimited darkness, but he was also spirit and martial arts in one sword-soul realm. How did this happen? If it wasn't for this kid, how would she end up in such a situation? She miscalculated, however. She didn't regret her decision. Her only mistake was that she wasn't more vicious. After that, the green-clothed woman calmed down once again. She smiled sweetly. What is Sister Yuan Jing saying? We are the venerables of a world, so naturally, we are impartial. Just now, we wanted to attack and couldn't make it in time. Impartial? Oh, do you remember that when my senior brother entered the world, he was suppressed by all of you? This mysterious cloud spirit sect, Shanxiao, was let off by all of you. Is this what you mean by impartial? Lin Yuanjing laughed out loud. If it wasn't for my sister's personal disciple being strong, he would have been killed by Shanxiao, right? This is what the four of you wanted, right? The old man sighed. Fellow cultivator Yuanjing, you are too weak. Why do you have to do this? The few of us just couldn't attack in time. I know that you Tsang Shengdao still hate us for Shizi's death. However, back then, the six of us had no choice but to do so. There's no point in being entangled. Moreover, today, the junior nephew was injured. He wasn't hurt at all. There's a saying in the mortal world, where it is possible to let people off, one should leave a way out for everything. I know that. However, why didn't you all leave a path for my senior brother to level up? Today, my junior nephew is indeed fine. However, if I don't punish all of you and warn all of you, if my Tsang Shengdao disciple faces such a thing in the future, what will he do? Can he only wait for death? The Taoist frowned and wanted to argue. Lin Yuanjing's voice became cold once more. So, Yuanjing, please give me an explanation. The last two words were spoken in an indifferent tone, but they were filled with a heart-palpitating killing intent and determination. The green-clothed woman raised her eyebrows. Then, she didn't try to defend herself. She sneered, explain. Why did he have to explain? Woman, you've really lost your mind. You're being unreasonable. It's all just speculation. How can you convict the four of us just like that? As the saying goes, if you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. This consort will not bicker with you. You may leave quickly. Is he fearless? Indeed, ever since senior brother Shizi fell, the six of you have never feared our Tsang Shengdao. Lin Yuanjing chuckled. That's fine too. Since you're not willing, I'll take it myself. It's the same. Apart from the monk, the four of them looked at each other with vigilance. After that, the woman in green thought about it carefully. She thought about it for a long time, but she didn't find anything wrong. The only exception was that Lin Yuanjing, who had just reached End Realm, still couldn't do anything to her. Since this woman set up such a trap, she definitely had something up her sleeve. However, with that thing in her hands, no matter what that person did, she didn't need to fear. She suppressed the uneasiness in her heart. Her expression was dark and cold as she continued to look at the teen who was still in the darkness. She had to think of a way to deal with this Zhongshou. In the end, she couldn't let him live. The moment such a thought rose up, the woman suddenly heard a weird sound. It was really soft. It caused her heart to jump once more. That was a chi explosion caused by the piercing of stellar energy from 1,000 feet away. It was as weak as a mosquito. However, when she heard it, it was like thunder exploding out beside her ear. She exclaimed. Pretty much instinctively, she flashed away from the spot. With a step, he froze the 100,000 feet of land around him. However, she still couldn't stop the danger from getting close. It was totally silent, and she was unable to sense it with her spiritual sense. Even at this moment, she didn't know what it was. She scoffed and waved her sleeves once more. 12 jade-like celestial treasures suddenly flew out from her sleeves and circled around her body. However, in the next instance, a shocked expression appeared on her face. She grabbed out with her hands and instantly forcefully pulled out a weird power from the source of heaven and earth. It was endless and vast as it protected her body. This was the power that a world venerable could use. It came from the deepest source of the cloud world. If this world didn't die, then she wouldn't die either. This was why, although she didn't have a lifespan extending treasure like the mysterious life golden book, the lifespan of a world venerable was several times that of other cultivators. However, in just 1,000th of an instant, a golden light still pierced in. Even the source power of the cloud world could only cause it to stop for a moment. The green-shirt woman was panicking. She finally saw what that thing looked like. It was a golden needle. At that instant, she saw the laws and grand chaos contained within it. Annihilation, frost, blaze, sky, instant, conceal, sharpness. There were 7 that she could recognize right away. There were also 2 chaos that she had never seen or heard of before. It's the 9 extreme pinnacle needle. Where did you get it from? You crazy bitch. The last 2 sentences were filled with hysteria. Her face was ashen as she hurriedly took out a talisman and raised it up. At the same time, she anxiously said, "Please help me." The expressions of the other 3 changed. However, a moment later, the young man chuckled and the monk remained silent. The old man grabbed out with his hand, but another sword light suddenly appeared in the void and slashed down at this moment. Lin Fanmeng. With a sigh, the old man turned around. He flicked his finger and hit the tip of the sword. Where the sword light came from didn't seem to have any intention of fighting head-on with him. It turned from real to illusionary, and with a light tap, it disappeared into the void. A chuckle could be heard from afar. In the next moment, there was another explosion. The talisman light and the golden needle clashed in front of the green-shirt woman, causing this small part of heaven and earth to instantly collapse. Although the aura was vast and shocking. However, the sound spread really well. One could only see that part of the area was collapsing inch by inch. It even spread through the void and affected numerous stacks of space. However, when the talisman was totally destroyed, the golden needle still dissipated. Just as the green-shirt woman heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at the monk and the teen in annoyance. Then, her eyelids jumped once more, only to see an even smaller golden light suddenly appear in front of her. Hidden needle within needle. These words jumped out in her mind. However, this time, she was unable to react at all. The shadow of the needle directly pierced into the center of his brows. All of a sudden, the old man was startled and the teen's face was ashen white. The monk didn't keep silent anymore. With a sigh, he began to chant an incantation. It was the Ksitigarbha Sutra, the Buddhist sutra. For a bodhisattva like him to chant, it was a huge merit. If a mortal soul heard it, they could reincarnate. If a cultivator with high morals heard it, they could unravel the mystery of being in the womb and obtain the memories of the past. Even if they knew that this woman that they spent so much time with had already fallen, her physical body and soul were all wiped out. This sutra was useless, and it was still the same. After a few sentences, the woman's body started to turn into dust and dissipate. Without any power to maintain it, she was instantly ripped to shreds by the chaotic void. At this moment, Yuanjing's laughter could be heard from all around. It is a needle hidden within a needle. Since I knew that I was a chess piece of that person, how would I not know that he would leave you a way to protect yourself? How is this needle? I spent 3,000 years researching and crafting artifacts to hide another needle within the 9 extreme pinnacle needle. Does it taste good? Seeing your brother's thousands of years of blood vengeance is finally retribution. This voice was filled with madness and joy. The joy of taking revenge was filled within. Although he knew that the green-shirt woman was already dead and wouldn't be able to hear these words, he still said excitedly. The teen's expression was green. Seeing the monk still chanting, he couldn't help but feel annoyed. Stop chanting. Since he didn't help her before, then why are you acting so hypocritical and acting like this? Even the old man looked over with a blaming gaze. If the monk helped just now, this green-shirt woman might not have died in this battle. The latter sighed bitterly. He did have a reason that he had no choice but to do so. However, He wasn't willing to argue and could only keep his mouth shut and not speak. The teen looked into the void. Now that Han Yue is dead, with Yuanjing's intentions, you will definitely die. Are you really going to commit a crime? Leaving the three of us here? 10,000 years ago, we were just doing our duty and we had no choice. Today's matter was because Han Yue was biased and we were in the wrong. If Fairy wants an explanation, the three of us will give it to you. Yuanjing laughed coldly when she heard that. However, the hatred and coldness in her voice had dissipated by a little. Since that is the case, then the three of you, please break an arm. The teen's expression instantly turned dark and cold. The monk's expression became even more bitter. As for the old man, he was enraged. Just as the two of them were speaking, tens of thousands of miles away, one was above the clouds, one couldn't see anything like a celestial world. The two people who were talking to each other frowned. Then, the one who seemed to be slightly younger said sadly, "It is Han Yue. It seems like she has fallen." The other man was slightly older, but he didn't seem to be more than 40 years old. "It is the 9 Extreme Pinnacle Needle. What a good Yuanjing. I really underestimated her. She was too careless. She really thought that with that talisman, no one could do anything to her. She didn't die in vain." He sighed. "It should be because of the Shi-Zi matter. I told you long ago. We were a little too much. Song Shengdao definitely won't let us off. It was okay when we weren't strong enough, but now that we have recovered, he definitely won't let us off. What should we do now? Of the 6 world protectors, only the 5 of us are left, and we can't stop one end realm. That Yuanjing doesn't seem like a person who will give up easily. Now that we have something on her, don't worry. It is just a matter of bearing with it. The evil demon path that Shi-Zi passed down won't be able to overturn the heavens. In the end, we will still be in charge of this world. We can tell that person that since this matter started because of him, if that's the case, then he should be the one to deal with the trouble he caused himself." Chapter 545. At the same time, in the void layers outside of the cloud world, Lingyun's sect leader Wensu. His eyes were filled with confusion as he looked within the cloud world. The outer layer of the cloud world was like a sealed iron shell, unable to be sensed at all. He knew that the world was there, but he couldn't sense it. If it was a normal world, it would be like that. However, in the cloud world, it was abnormal because he couldn't send his spiritual sense in. At that time, the space barrier was leaking. How could it block off his spiritual sense? Not only was he unable to see the situation there, but he was also unable to sense what was happening on the peak. It was like a cultivator had attacked and blocked off the Chu lands. He couldn't help but look towards the old man beside him in confusion. When Long Ying saw this, he scoffed coldly. "It wasn't me. Long Ying don't have such ability." When Su shook his head, he also knew that it couldn't be Long Ying. Locking down a world was obviously done by an end-realm cultivator. He only suspected that the person who used the spell had something to do with Long Ying. Looking at it now, although the latter expected it, his eyes were filled with surprise and admiration. Maybe they were related, but this matter definitely didn't come from Long Ying. The black veil that covered the world came and went quickly. In an instant, the cloud world returned to normal. Right away, when Su looked toward the cloud world once more, then his eyes were filled with bitterness. At the peak of mysterious Cloud Mountain, Shunxiao wasn't there anymore. Zhongshou held the blood halberd in his hand and stood on the spot perfectly fine. Even the 4,200 blood cavalry under him didn't die at all. They weren't perfectly fine, but all the injuries were borne by the 4,000 of them, which was why they were able to barely maintain their combat strength. They still lost this battle in the end. They lost too badly. It was a total defeat. Sighing, when Su was already thinking about how to deal with future matters and how to protect the foundations of Lingyun's sect. They had to back out of Donglin Cloud Continent. With their current strength, they wouldn't be able to protect those spiritual veins in Pill Spirit Mountain. However, why not have a chat with the Gantia Mountain Monster King to see if there was any chance of peace? That was how things were in this world. Since he could no longer suppress them, it was best to cooperate with them. Luckily, 10,000 years ago, according to the intentions of that person, The foreshadowing finally left a chance for their Lingyun sect to survive. The Tao of Providence? When Su tasted bitterness in his mouth as he thought to himself, "It is indeed as you said. Those who were able to decipher the luck character heavenly talisman had either died long ago and would not appear, or they were extremely talented. It could make the Lingyun sect flourish and bring glory to the sect. He could also smash them into the mud with his own hands." He had always thought that the other party was joking, so he didn't take it to heart. At that time, the two of them were merely peak immortal realm cultivators. How could they dare to talk about 10,000 years later? Even end realm experts couldn't be omniscient. So, he had already seen through the secrets of the heavens 10,000 years ago. After knowing about Zhong Shou, in the end, he still won the bet. Then, he felt a little strange. What had happened just now? Who killed Divine Firmament? Was it one of those supremacies? Or was it that end realm who attacked just now? Or was it Zhong Shou who personally killed him? If it was Zhong Shou, what methods did he use? Oh, the situation within the world didn't seem right when Su's face turned serious. In that instant, he sensed something. He sensed that there were some changes within the cloud world. Without hesitation, he spread his spiritual sense over to take a close look. Moments later, when Su sucked in a deep cold breath, longing beside him was much faster. His eyes were filled with an expression as he said, "Han Yue has fallen. She cultivated for 20,000 years and only reached Saint Realm. What a waste." When Su's lips twitched, why did it sound like he was gloating over his misfortune no matter how he heard it? He didn't feel any emotions at all. He knew and recognized Han Yue. He had seen her several times in the past. 10,000 years ago, she had already stepped into the Saint Realm. She felt that her cultivation couldn't improve anymore, so she decisively gave up on it and turned to protect this world. She usually took care of Lingyun. However, this woman was a chess piece of another person. Thinking back to the past, when Su knew that today was probably a trap. Not only was the Gantian Mountain Monster King and Long Ying plotting against his Lingyun sect, there were also people who dug a huge hole and waited for Han Yue to jump in Songqingdao. Yuan Jing. In an instant, he knew who did it. When Su's expression was extremely dark and sunken. What was the point of divining it now? Was it because of Seven Spirit Sect? Or did this Zhong Shou have some connection with Songqingdao? His brows suddenly rose up as he sensed an aura slightly weaker than his swiftly closing in. It was A.O. Kuan. He didn't have killing intent, but that didn't mean that he wasn't interested in fighting with him here. He couldn't stay here any longer, taking in a deep breath, when Su had the intention to leave. He said towards Long Ying, "Today I have lost. Taoist Long Ying, if you don't want to keep me here, then I will take my leave." Long Ying squinted and then scoffed coldly. Since things had reached such a stage and he had already won, he had no intention to continue fighting. However, if he fought, he could only keep one out of the three of them, and it might not be Su. He still needed to keep these decades of lifespan for his disciple and take care of her for as long as he could. He sighed in his heart. If he was at the End Realm, why would things be so problematic today? Unfortunately, although the knot in his heart was gone, he was still unable to find a way to break through. When Su looked at his expression and knew that it was A.O. Kuan, before Longing arrived, he wouldn't stop him. However, at this moment, he couldn't smile. Since that is the case, then I will leave first. If I offend you today, I will have an explanation in the future. As for whether this explanation was to ask for forgiveness or to settle old scores, that would have to wait for the future. The moment he said this, when Su stepped into the broken void and left. As for those two auras, they also disappeared swiftly. Only Long Ying was left. He mocked himself. What a cunning kid. He actually didn't show any flaws. If he wasn't cunning, how could Lingyun's sect become a sect? To become one of the 10 shrines? The one who spoke was A.O. Kuan. He stepped out of the void with his hands behind his back, his face filled with surprise. I remember that this person was just a junior in front of me. He wasn't that outstanding among those of the same generation. I didn't expect him to have such achievements 10,000 years later. Just hearing about his deeds makes me really impressed. Long Ing didn't have a good expression towards him. You came too late. I cannot be late. Ao Kuan smiled. He reached out, and 12 spiritual light jade slips appeared in front of him. I want to chase this item. I'll let Xin Xiao off, and let Yuan Jing kill Han Yue. I also need to get some benefits. Now, I finally have a passable protective item. Old man Long Ying's face became even uglier. Ao Kuan acted like he didn't see it and continued. Anyways, we can't fight. Don't tell me you're really going to waste your life here? Long Ying was furious. He wasn't willing to argue with his old friend and wanted to leave. At this moment, Ao Kuan smiled and opened his mouth. Oh right, I forgot about something. Your disciple told me to pass a message to you. He said that he comprehended something about the 99 Long Ying sword merging into one. He wants you to wait for a while before leaving to meet him. Maybe you can help me comprehend something. Long Ying broke into a laugh when he heard that. What arrogant words. As a saint realm, I couldn't comprehend something in 10,000 years, and he can solve it? Shameless words, and biting off more than he can chew. Thinking back to what Ao Kuan said about Zhongsho's recently formed Dharma soul, his expression turned solemn. His unlimited darkness and unlimited light is not bad. Who knows where this fellow visualized it from? In the future, I will think of a way to perfect it. However, if this Dharma can help him comprehend the 99 Long Ying sword, it shouldn't be of much benefit. Ao Kuan acknowledged, lovingly playing with the jade letter in his hand. His tone was casual. Zhongsho said that. It is as senior brother expected. However, he also said something. Recently, he was lucky enough to see the absolute beginning core. Absolute beginning. Long Ying was startled. A moment later, he reacted. He saw the absolute beginning? Then why isn't he dead? Then, he felt that the meaning of those words wasn't right. He coughed. Even someone like me couldn't survive in the absolute beginning. So how could he do it? Even if he saw it, with his current realm, he wouldn't be able to remember it, not to mention comprehending it. His tone was filled with doubt. Long Ying recalled that just now when he saw Zhongsho, his lifespan seemed to have been greatly reduced. Now, he was less than 100 years old. He originally thought that the kid used some secret technique to use lifespan as the price to swiftly raise his strength. However, looking at that fellow, his foundations were still really firm. At most, in a few years, he could enter the peak of grade 9. Even the heavenly barrier might not be able to stop him. This was why he didn't scold him. Now, hearing what Ao Kuan said, it seemed like the situation wasn't as he thought. Burning lifespan to raise intellect. He knew that there were many people in the world who were good at this method. After a slight elimination, Dragon Shadow had already thought of a possibility. Then, an exclamation of disbelief rang out in the void. Absolute beginning core. That's right, if it was that item with his realm, he would be able to see it. However, Ao Kuan, are you joking with me? He found that world viewing instrument? That god treasure of the Mahist faction that was long gone? Look at me. Ao Kuan, when have I ever made such a joke? Ao Kuan finally kept the 12 jade slips like they were treasures. Then his face was filled with a teasing expression. So, Long Ying, you aren't planning to leave. Long Ying's teeth were about to shatter from gritting them. Why didn't you say so earlier? I forgot. Ao Kuan smiled, his heart at ease. Oh right, Zhongsho also said that he didn't remember anything. He didn't remember anything else and didn't have any decent comprehension. However, he did remember the first part. While he said that, he looked at Long Ying. His eyes were filled with gratification. He could see that this was an old friend. A large portion of that dejected aura had disappeared. He wasn't filled with fighting spirit, but he was filled with excitement and anticipation. Just remember it. If you want to comprehend it, wait until the celestial realm. After Long Ying scoffed coldly, he glanced at Ao Kuan. For some reason, now he suddenly had the urge to kick this guy to death. Chapter 546. As the sky slowly turned dark, The battlefield was still filled with the sound of drums, killing intent charging into the heavens. Tens of millions of soldiers in iron armor were split into two sides, going all out in a line on the plains close to the river. Numerous corpses were scattered all about. One side was Gantia Mountain City. There were only 8 million of them, split into hundreds of square formations. With the 200 or so cloud ships in the river as the flanks, they were like a dam that blocked the enemy's attacks one after another. Their numbers were much smaller than Thousand City Alliance, only a quarter of their numbers. However, they were obviously more elite. The iron armor on their bodies, as well as the weapons in their hands, all shone with spiritual light. They were all spiritual artifact grade. Most of the time, even if weapons slashed on their bodies, they would be unharmed, which was why, although they had fewer troops, their aura was stronger. The entire 67 miles wide front line was the other way around, suppressing the tens of millions of troops of Thousand City Alliance. They were neatly and efficiently harvesting lives. However, each time they attacked, they would crush the enemy. They would always retreat immediately and return to the barracks at the rear, relying on the fortifications to defend to the death, and would not pursue an attack. Thousand City Alliance was the same, collapsing time and time again. However, they continued to attack. In front of that meat grinder-like camp, piece after piece fell. At this moment, Xionyu's face was green as she sat 17 miles behind the battle formation within a tent. Although she didn't personally come to the battlefield, the spirit masters beside her were able to use cloud light illusions. They were able to display the situation of each corner of the battlefield in front of her. On either side of her were the city lords who had followed her here, as well as the famous great generals of the eastern region. At this moment, there were many discussions, causing the tent to be noisy. Since the start of the war, it is already the 7th day. 7 days of time, our troops have been gathered here. We have close to 1 million deaths, and we can't advance an inch. If this goes on, even when these 11 million people all die, we still won't be able to break through this place. The reason why our army fell to such a state is because the Navy was late. Relying on the squadron in the river, Gantian Mountain can at least save 30% of their troops. I heard that a month ago they gathered at Lidong City. Why haven't they arrived yet? Are they all trash? However, we can't blame them. Ever since Gantian Mountain City was wiped out by the Italian City Squadron, in these 2 years, they had built 37 Tooth warships. There were close to 105 Tooth warships. At the exit of the river, there were 4 castles, each with more than 50 energy-destroying crossbows. I'm afraid it will be difficult to win in a short period of time. If that's the case, then the Monster King must have been prepared. He had expected the battlefield to be here. No wonder during these 2 years, Gantian Mountain pretty much wiped out all the ships in the river. We are indeed prepared. Our Thousand City Alliance has been sending out elite cavalry to attack their rear. However, there is no sign of anyone escorting the provisions or military equipment, nor was there anyone within 300 li of them. They should have sufficient reserves here and are not afraid of being surrounded by our army. I've always found it weird, where did Gantian Mountain get so much money? Although he had obtained the Beast Tomb, it was impossible for him to be so rich. Even if we combine the power of a province, we might not be able to build one in a year. Can't we just go around this place? Hey, where did this ignorant kid come from? Someone like you who isn't at home actually dares to give orders here. Don't you know that in the art of war, troops should travel along the river? If we leave this Daishui River, where are we going to get water from? Can we rely on the heaven and earth bags of the sex to last a day? The moment those words were said, laughter instantly sounded out throughout the tent. It caused the face of the person who asked to turn red from embarrassment. However, after they laughed, their faces were still filled with worry. It wasn't that they couldn't win. With Ling Yun's sect taking charge and unifying the cities, they set up a trap. He had set up another trap and made the Demon King willingly jump into it. The outcome of this battle was already decided. At this moment, they were only worried that they would suffer too many casualties in this battle. Xiongyu was in deep thought and didn't bother about them. These people weren't under her, so naturally, she couldn't order them around. If she could really do it, then the Donglin sects would be worried about her. Our forces have suffered casualties in 7 days. 40,000 people collapsed 4 times. Till today, we haven't even broken through the first layer of the enemy's wall. Who knew that the Gantian Mountain soldiers were actually so elite? No wonder they wanted to disband the army. They don't want any subordinates. Your 40,000 men are still okay. The elite cavalry that I have managed for many years all fell not long ago. The 10 most elite towns of Gantian Mountain have more than 300 Scientian experts. It is okay if they don't appear, but the moment they do, they will definitely win and slaughter. There is no way to continue this battle. Who knows what the situation of the other few paths are like? I heard that it isn't good. Gantian Mountain is defending. They all suffered heavy casualties and were unable to take it down. Xiongyu laughed coldly and knew that these people seemed to be discussing among themselves. Actually, these words were said for her to hear, to beat around the bush. Her brows furrowed as she looked at the cloud-light illusionary scene in front of her, her eyes filled with a cold intent that couldn't be dissolved. Moments later, she made a decision. That sharp sword-like gaze swept around the hall. Just the suppression of her aura caused the hall to become silent once more. I know that during these 7 days, the army has suffered heavy casualties. Xiongyu also feels heart-pained. There is no benefit in continuing like this. The moment she said that, the people in the tent all nodded their heads. Xiongyu's tone changed. Have you all thought that the situation over at Gantian Mountain is even worse now? In today's battle, my 1,000-city alliance lost 124,000 people. But looking at Gantian Mountain, 3,000 people died. Some of the people in the hall who understood all laughed coldly, roughly guessing what this blazing flame mountain city lord wanted to say. As expected, he heard Xiongyu continue. Yesterday, Gantian Mountain only had 1,000 casualties. Gantian Mountain is already showing signs of fatigue. The current plan was to go all out in one go and not give up halfway. Tonight, I am prepared to fight through the night. I want to use Blazing Flame, Yunxia, Longxiang, and Yunsheng as the main force to try to attack once more. We will attack from the right. The terrain here is vast and isn't good for defending. Today, I observed carefully, and this should be the weakest area. It isn't hard to break through. Before she could finish her sentence, a cold laugh rang out from within the tent. Why go through so much trouble? The dust on Mysterious Cloud Mountain is about to settle. Once that Zongsho dies, Gantian Mountain's army towns will fall on their own. Even if we attack now, we will only be wasting lives. As soon as he said this, everyone in the tent showed a look of agreement. That's right. Lingyun's sect has made plans. As long as Zongsho dies, the situation will be settled. The situation will be settled. Why waste your energy here? Our deputy alliance head is really ambitious. However, the soldiers of our cities can forget about seeking personal gains. This Princess Xianyu doesn't care about human lives, but I need to worry about my troops. Xiongyu wasn't angry, but laughed instead, her eyes squinting as she looked at the person who retorted with killing intent. This person wasn't from Longxiang City, but before Thousand City Alliance was built, he was one of the subordinate cities of Longxiang City. Looking at the remaining 10 overcities, including Cloud Saint City Lords Su Junyuan and Yunxia Mountain Feng Nu, they all kept silent and didn't speak. Only then did she smile in satisfaction. It isn't impossible to stop attacking. However, if there is anything, we have to wait for our Lingyun sect to settle everything before we can enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Wouldn't that make us seem useless? One sentence caused the tent to regain its calmness. Xiongyu looked at the 2 green-shirt males beside her. One of them was Zhu Renquang. The other was younger and was called Yin Fei Bai. They were both core disciples of Lingyun's sect. As for her, Xiongyu, although she was the lord of a city, she only had the status of an inner court disciple. She immediately smiled. Later on, please send your Dao soldiers to help. Zhu Renquang admired this girl a little. However, he was still hesitant about this matter. Within Lingyun's sect, Grade 6 Dao soldiers were the main force. However, below them were Grade 4 and 5 Dao soldiers. This time he brought 1,000 people over. Along with the Donglin sects, there were 5,000. Although they weren't the true pillars of the sect, they were where the essence was gathered. Just as he was hesitating, he heard Xiong Yu continue. During these few days, I tried to lure Gantian Mountain to chase. However, Chiu Wei is indeed a great general, retreating in time and not advancing rashly. It is obvious that he is wary of our Dao soldiers. Since we can't lure them, we can only forcefully attack. Don't worry, Senior Master. I will be careful and try my best not to cause too many sect elites to die. Today, I don't hope to break through, I just hope to heavily injure him and have an explanation. If not, when the mysterious cloud spirit sect wins and loses, our faces won't look good. Only then did Zhu Rinquang nod his head and smile. Junior Master is good at using troops. I trust you. That Yin Feibai didn't care. This time Zhu Rinquang was the one who made the decision. He followed over just to broaden his horizons and watch this huge battle from the side. He only thought about Zhong Shou in his heart, thinking to himself, that was that person going to fall just like that? What a waste. He was unable to fight him. In 2 years, he had already stepped into Grade 7. Who knows what realm that Zhong Shou had reached? Xiong Yu's lips curled up, her hand unknowingly caressing her broken arm. Then, she clenched tightly at the broken area. An intense pain instantly drilled into her heart. Within the cloud world, there were numerous secret techniques and recipes passed down from the Cloud Desolate era. There were numerous limb regeneration techniques. Even like Long Ruo, who was valued by the sect, one could even use a bit of true spirit to reconstruct the body. As a city lord, it was really easy for Xiong Yu to recover an arm. However, he had always kept it because he wanted to remember that time, the great humiliation at Dragon Gathering Mountain, for today. It shouldn't be far. In just a few days, news of his death would be heard. Zhong Shou, Zhong Shou, I will destroy your Gantian Mountain. Not a single tile will remain. Chapter 547. Feihai City has betrayed. This is the 27th. Can this be considered being surrounded on all sides? Just opposite the alliance of the Thousand City Alliance, inside a stone fortress. Hu Qinqiu laughed coldly, placing the message talisman in his hand to the side. He didn't directly destroy it. Instead, he placed it neatly at the side. He was prepared to settle all the old debts after this. His Highness treated people generously, but if he didn't kill some of these half-hearted officials, how would he warn others? At this moment, within the land under Gantian Mountain City, the situation wasn't good. There were flames everywhere, many cities rebelling. Some city lords were throwing flirtatious glances at Thousand City Alliance and Lingyun sect. They were not far away from betraying. In the eyes of people who didn't know, Gantian Mountain City, which was once famous and ruled over an area, was already collapsing. Ling Feikong was smiling, bringing with him some emotions. Was this expected? Didn't we all think that the ruler couldn't control a country and couldn't win against Zhongshu? In the end, the ruler forcefully turned the situation around. Those who didn't know about the Blood Cloud cavalry naturally thought that Argantian Mountain had already lost. In 7 days, only 27 cities rebelled. That is already not bad. This is because the ruler is good at ruling the country. The people's hearts are united. Based on Zhongshu's punishment, he should have stayed in the camp for 10 years. However, during these 2 years, he followed the Gantian Mountain Navy to hunt under the Cloud Ocean, killing every day. In the end, Zhongshu removed his punishment. He didn't regain his title, but his status was the same as before. This was because of Ling Xian. In these few years, the reputation of the Eye Wolf race rose once more, and they were listed as one of the 4 races of Gantian Mountain. He had volunteered to participate in this battle, and he also shared in the glory. Gantian Mountain was about to unify the Cloud Continent, so how could they not participate in such a grand event? Who knows, they might even be able to regain their Duke title. Although that is the case, it is still despicable. Hu Qinqiu scoffed coldly, flipping to the next message talisman, following which he was delighted. Good. Good. Very good. This is Yueqing City Lord's declaration. He is willing to return to the rule of Thousand City Alliance. He says that the ruler is perverted, greedy, and lustful, a ruler who is unwilling to die. He also advised us not to make a mistake and help the evildoer. If they wanted to protect their clansmen, it was best to bind themselves and ask for forgiveness from the Thousand Cities Alliance Master. He also said that in a few days, he would raise another 100,000 troops to attack the surrounding cities. I advised the city lords to think carefully. With a sinister laugh, Hu Qinqiu directly crushed the talisman in his hand. His eyes were filled with malevolence. City Lord Yuqing. He would remember this name. Zhongling also smiled. City Lord Yuqing? He remembered that this person used to be a vassal of the Blazing Flame Mountain. Previously, they had betrayed Blazing Flame Mountain completely. This time, they had also done things to the extreme. The words reckless were used to describe this generation. Do you really think that my Gantian Mountain is definitely going to fall? As he spoke, he glanced outside the stone hall. During this battle, although they didn't bring any subordinate troops, they still had a lot of troops. However, there were still many city lords and generals gathered outside the hall. Their eyes were filled with worry. During these 2 years, most of the Gantian Mountain cities were forced to reduce their armies by Zhongshou. As a result, these people only brought some of the elite guards with them. Most of them were won with the rise and fall of Gantian Mountain. Running over here, they couldn't help much, but they expressed that they wanted to live and die with Gantian Mountain. In Zhongling's eyes, although these people were a little noisy and annoying, they were far more likable than those who betrayed him. Xiao Wei, who was studying the map in front of him, also raised his head. We can talk about the rebellion in the future. Tonight, there should be a huge battle. Hu Qinqiu's brows rose up. I also expected that Xiongyu wouldn't be someone who would let things go. This woman is ambitious. How would she be willing to sit and wait for the outcome of the mysterious Cloud Mountain battle? Ling Feikong nodded slightly. Since she couldn't lure them, she could only forcefully attack. If I'm not wrong, she should be attacking from the east. Reaching out and tapping on the map, Hu Qinqiu instantly smiled, as expected from the Fox and Wolf title, not leading troops for 2 years. Her judgment is still so accurate, so is my intention. He scoffed coldly. Who knows whether or not they would use the Dao soldiers of the various sects? If it wasn't for them worrying about these sect elites, although there are tens of millions of enemies, our army would be defeated. Actually, we just need 1 Black Fox Iron Cavalry. Unfortunately, at this moment, a large half of the elite cavalry of Gantian Mountain were taken away. The remaining portion wasn't enough to deal with the 5,000 Dao soldier elite cavalry. The other people were slightly helpless. In the end, it was Qiu Wei who opened his mouth and broke the silence, following which he smacked the table. Even if we can't, we still have to try. Xiongyu can't wait. We are the same. We can't disappoint the ruler, and we can't just sit there and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Just as he said that, the brows of the people in the hall rose up. They felt the spiritual energy above shake. The grade 9 cultivators in charge of both sides were fighting. The 4 of them exchanged glances with one another before they all walked out of the stone hall. Just as they walked up the wall, they saw that the other side had no intentions of retreating. There were also groups of armored soldiers who surged out from the camp towards the east that Ling Feikong mentioned. The military drums sounded out. The bugle horns shook the heavens. The intense battle had already reached the wee hours of the morning. Millions of people were surrounding these few hills with gentle slopes. There were also a few layers of walls that were entangled with one another. The intense battle had already lasted close to 12 hours. Out of the 3 hills, 2 were occupied. As for those few layers of walls, most of them were flattened by spirit masters using earth element spells. However, the Thousand City Alliance side also paid a huge price. A full 400,000 corpses laid here. Fresh red blood dyed a small half of the ground red. It caused numerous vultures to circle in the sky, waiting for the battle to end. They would pounce down to enjoy the delicious taste of the corpses. Gantian Mountain's casualties were only 1,000. This was because they didn't care about casualties and forcefully attacked. In exchange, the 20 towns of Gantian Mountain had no way to defend and could only line up on the plains to block. However, even in such a situation, Chiu Wei was still expressionless and calm. Such an intense battle couldn't be rushed. If one was anxious, one would make mistakes. The battle of large countries wasn't about who was more intelligent. Instead, it was about who made fewer mistakes. Moreover, today this defensive line was still impregnable. Using the wheel tactic, the Thousand City Alliance side had already changed 3 times. Each time, they would use millions of troops to try to tire them out. However, the effect wasn't obvious. The 360 towns of Gantian Mountain were all elites. Some of them were still new to the battlefield. However, there were some peak martial master cultivators. After 7 days of blood baptism, they could be considered war elite soldiers. Most of them could rest peacefully even with weapons in front of them. With just these 200,000 people, he had the confidence to crush 10 times the land. What Gantian Mountain was good at wasn't defending, but fighting in the wilderness. In the army formation, they forcefully pushed forward. Although they were tired, they could still fight. This was already the 4th wave, along with the cavalry and armored soldiers who were slowly getting tired. They neatly and orderly retreated to the sides. In front of them were dozens of square formations that pushed forwards. Similarly, with a large city elite as the center and the other city troops as the flanks. This time there were fewer people, only 700,000. However, the most eye-catching one was the elite cavalry on the left. There were less than 6,000 of them, but their auras were strong, far stronger than the other armies. The armor they wore was also a high-grade spiritual artifact. Chiu Wei's brows rose up as he casually waved his sleeves. At the side of the commander platform, there was instantly a square formation that lined up in an orderly manner as they walked forward. For 1,000 Wind splitting Immon knife soldiers, for 1,000 Iron Tiger halberd warriors, 3,000 Wind bear mountain splitting warriors. One of the top elites of Gantian Mountain. Maybe they were a little weaker than these Dao soldiers, but they could fight with them. However, using foot to face cavalry was a little passive. As for how it would turn out, it would depend on how the generals of both sides used their troops. However, Chiu Wei didn't plan to decide victory or defeat in this battle, but outside of the battlefield. Looking into the distance, he estimated that it was time for Hu Qianqiu's side to act. They just needed to tie down this Dao soldier elite cavalry. At this moment, there was an uproar behind him. Those are the Dao soldiers of the various sects. Things aren't looking good. I heard that Xiong Yu is a master of the art of war. She is like adding wings to a tiger. There is no danger here to defend, using foot to face cavalry. Commander, please make preparations as soon as possible. It is best if you retreat slightly. Even Chiu Wei, who was usually calm and collected, couldn't help but twitch his lips. Did these people not have high hopes for him? How would he not know that he had no chance of winning this battle? He might not lose, but he definitely couldn't win. However, if he lost here, he would make up for it from other places. These people had some status, and it wasn't good to scold and chase them away. Chiu Wei could only act like he didn't hear anything and continue to calmly arrange the troops. However, there was another period of time. The only thing was that in the middle were all white armored soldiers. On the flag in front of them was a huge Su word. Su. Su Zhengyuan is Cloud Saint City? After being startled, Chiu Wei came back to his senses. Then he smiled. Could it be that the heavens also intended for him to achieve a great victory? Zhongling was right beside him and also muttered, "What luck!" The moment he said that, a thunderous roar spread out from the horizon. The clear sky suddenly darkened as dark clouds gathered. Chiu Wei's expression returned to normal as he looked into the sky and said decisively, "This is a rare chance. Order the left wing, 4th town of the Mystery Dragon Army to retreat 700 feet. On the Thousand City Alliance commander platform, Xiong Yu frowned as she looked into the sky. It seems like there's going to be a heavy rain. She sighed in her heart. The heavens weren't helping her. Even if they could win today, once it rained, they wouldn't be able to chase and expand their gains. Just as she was thinking about that, she heard a person beside her say, "What the sect leader means is that we can borrow the hands of Gantian Mountain to get rid of some of the Cloud Saint City people. This Su Jingyuan's old injury is because of our sect. Although we don't hate him, leaving this person alive is a problem." It wasn't Zurin Quang, but another grade 7 spirit master of Ling Yun's sect who stood behind her expressionlessly. Xiong Yu expressionlessly replied, following which she acknowledged, her face filled with shock. Chapter 548. Only to see that opposite, a 10,000-man square formation of Gantian Mountain suddenly retreated by a full 700 feet. It looked like it was to avoid the vanguard of the Dao soldiers' elite cavalry, connecting closely with the other square formations. However, one side of it was totally exposed. Qiu Wei is a Gantian Mountain general. He actually showed such a weakness before the battle. Xiongyu only felt that it was unbelievable, the first thought in her head. She wasn't excited and surprised, but she felt weird and uneasy. During these 7 days, she and Qiu Wei had clashed numerous times, fighting tens of battles. She was really clear about this person's ability. As expected from the left pillar general that Zhong Weiran chose. Maybe he wasn't as good as those geniuses in the art of war, but he was really calm and careful, using troops really stable such that one couldn't find any chance to take advantage of. However, the situation today was a little weird. Did he have something up his sleeve? Or did he have something up his sleeves? Why did he retreat for no reason? Oh, there seems to be a weakness. Was he careless? Good chance. If we charge at the left wing now, we will be able to crush it. Hey, this Qiu Wei is indeed a good general, defending really calmly these 7 days. However, he only made such a mistake today, and he is going to bury the million Gantian Mountain army here. No, there is something weird about this matter. At this moment, the city lords sitting on both sides were mostly people who were good at the art of war. Some said not to be rash, to take a look first. Some said that they should immediately attack. Such a chance wouldn't come again. Xiongyu was the same. However, in an instant, the situation opposite changed. Another formation of 10,000 men stepped out from the opposing army. In Xiongyu's eyes, a glimmer of light flashed past. In an instant, all her doubts were gone. These are Gantian Mountain's wind-splitting Immo knife warriors, Iron Tiger halberd warriors, Wind Bear Mountain splitting warriors. The true essence of Gantian Mountain. So that's the case. They want to use these elites to replace the vanguard of the Dao soldiers' elite cavalry? No wonder. City Lord Xiong, the opportunity is fleeting. We can't. Not waiting for this person to finish, Xiong had already stood up and said decisively, "Send my orders. Invite the Ling Yun, mysterious cloud spirit, and Taoist cultivators to attack from the left wing. Charge into the middle of the enemy formation and penetrate their formation." At this time, almost everyone gradually became excited. It could be said that today's great victory was at hand. Once this place was broken, Gantian Mountain would have no way to turn the situation around. They could drive straight in and attack into the core of Gantian Mountain. Xiong Yu's voice continued, slightly trembling. Order the army to move forward. Crush the enemy formation. We must wipe them all out here. When the order was given, the 5,000 elite cavalry started to move. The mount gradually accelerated and began to gallop. Just as she was ordered, she directly charged towards the left flank of the enemy. The other square formations braved the arrow rain of Gantian Mountain as they moved forwards. The 20-odd towns of Cloud Saint City were the fastest. They followed closely behind the 5,000 elite Dao soldiers. They pressed towards the central army of Gantian Mountain. Their movements were the quickest. At that moment, everyone on the platform held their breaths, waiting for the Dao soldier elite cavalry of the Donglin sects to crush the central army of Gantian Mountain. Xiong Yu couldn't help but stand up, her fists tightly clenched. On her jade-like face, there was a faint flush of red. The corners of her eyes were also slightly twisted, looking exceptionally ferocious. She was distracted, nearly losing her composure. How could she not be emotional? How could she not be happy? The millions of elites that Zhongsho personally built were all going to be destroyed in her hands. Blazing Flame Mountain City. Not only could she regain lost land, but she could also expand. In just a few days, Gantia Mountain City would disappear. In the future, the one who would rule Donglin would only be her, the Yinxiong race of Blazing Flame Mountain. Just as these thoughts rose up in her mind, Xiongyu heard an exclamation ring out in her ear. Something isn't right. Turning her head, she saw that the one who spoke was Zhu Renquang, who had been keeping silent and allowing her to command him. At this moment, his brows were furrowed like he was worried about something. Xiongyu instantly broke out into a laugh. The battle today was won too easily. No wonder this senior master would be like that. Even she felt uneasy before this. However, before she gave the order, she had thought about it carefully and didn't find anything wrong with it. Even if Chiu Wei did it on purpose, she had enough confidence to smash this trap. However, in the next instance, Yin Feibai suddenly opened his mouth, his brows filled with doubt. I don't know about the art of war, but looking at the troops of Cloud Saint City, they move too quickly. This formation seems a little inappropriate. The moment he said those words, it caused the bodies of everyone present to shudder, filled with fear and shock. It was like thunder exploding, causing their hearts to shake. Looking forward, as expected, they only felt that Su Jingyuan's formation was a little weird. The true elites were all at the back at this moment. Another 40,000 cavalry were all arranged on the left wing. More importantly, the 27 10,000-man square formations were too close to the 5,000 Dao soldiers who were running at full speed. Before this, she didn't feel weird because she thought that Su Jingyuan wouldn't dare to betray them at this moment. However, what if Xiongyu didn't dare to think about what would happen next? Just as she was about to give the order, she saw an arrow rain rise up from the 270,000 army of Cloud Saint City. However, where the arrow landed wasn't the Gantia Mountain army, but the 5,000 Dao soldier elite cavalry. This is a spirit-shattering arrow. Why would Cloud Saint City have such a thing? Xiangyu's face was ashen white. Such grade 3 spiritual arrows could only be produced by Conchi's sect. Why would Cloud Saint City have such a thing? If these 200,000 spiritual arrows landed, even if the 5,000 Dao soldiers were all Xiantian realm and above, they would suffer heavy losses. Then, his pupils constricted. It was the 40,000 cavalry. At this moment, they accelerated to the maximum and charged forwards. That direction was also the back of the Dao soldier elite cavalry. Killing intent charged into the heavens, striking from the back, pretty much drowning the 5,000 elite cavalry as they swept over. All of a sudden, Xiongyu felt her limbs turn cold, her heart sinking to the depths of the abyss. So that was the case. The elites arranged at the back wasn't to preserve strength. It was to defend against the back, and the cavalry was placed at the left to attack the Dao soldier elite cavalry. However, why would Su Jingyuan betray them? Why would he betray them? The Donglin sects were about to win, so why would Su Jingyuan take such a risk? A series of questions rose up in her heart. At this moment, the people on her left and right were all drained of blood. Zhu Renquang's face was green. The grade 7 spirit cultivator behind Xiongyu was so furious that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. At this moment, pretty much no one mentioned the matter of recalling the Dao soldiers. Everything was too late. They could only wait for the outcome. If they could pierce through the formation of Gantian Mountain, they might have a chance to live. If they retreated now, then even that chance would be gone. After a series of mounts died, as well as the sound of armor clashing, it reverberated out on the battlefield. First, there were 200,000 spiritual arrows, closely packed, landing on the weakest part of the Dao soldier elite cavalry that they weren't prepared for. In the span of a few breaths, close to 1,000 people fell from their saddles one after another. Following which, 40,000 iron cavalry arrived. Just as the remaining 3,000 elite cavalry were slightly blocked by the few 10,000-man square formations of Gantian Mountain, they swiftly chased up. Instantly, numerous elite cavalry fell off their horses. These people were all Tion and could often trade one for 3 or 4. However, without any suspense, they were totally drowned by the infantry formations of Gantian Mountain, as well as the cavalry of Cloud Saint City. One by one, they fell. Those 4,000 wind-splitting Immone knife warriors, 4,000 Iron Tiger halberd warriors, 3,000 wind bear mountain splitting warriors, all crushed over. The Immone knives, halberds, and giant axes that they waved were all in unison. No one was able to last for a moment in front of them. In just a short moment, those 5,000 elite cavalry were totally wiped out, not even causing a single ripple. No one was able to escape. Even the 2 Grade 7 experts leading were nowhere to be seen. In a short time, the Gantian Mountain army opposite had already changed their formation. They changed from defending to attacking, marching in an orderly manner towards the direction of the Thousand City Alliance. The Alliance army on the left and right wings of Cloud Saint City collapsed right away, crazily fleeing. At this moment, apart from the sound of footsteps, it was deathly silent on the battlefield. Xiongyu only felt that her limbs were totally numb, her mind totally at a loss. At this moment, she didn't dare to believe the scenes in front of her. 5,000 elite Dao soldiers were gone just like that. Without the threat of this elite cavalry, how was she going to face the Gantian Mountain army in front of her? Not to mention attacking, even defending, she didn't dare to say that she could defend. Could it be that he was going to be defeated today? If those 5,000 elite cavalry were all wiped out, how was she going to answer to the Donglin sects? Did this Su Zhengyuan lose his mind? Why would he do such a stupid thing? Zhu Renquang's face turned from green to purple. His eyes were red as he roared with all his might. Su Zhengyuan, my Lingyun sect will make you pay with your life. 1,000 disciples. You will pay with your blood? Su Jingyuan's maniacal laughter came from the other side. Blood for blood? Great. Su Jingyuan looks forward to it. Xiongyu was so furious that her body trembled. Originally, they were going to win, but now there were signs of them losing. Su Zhenyuan, I think you're crazy. Zhongsho will definitely fall under mysterious Cloud Mountain. Gantian Mountain will also be wiped out. Aren't you afraid that my Donglin sects will wipe out your entire Su family? Even if Zhongsho doesn't die, do you think I can't wipe out a small Cloud Saint City Lord? The person who spoke was the Grade 7 spirit cultivator behind Xiongyu. Using spells to amplify his voice, it could be heard hundreds of miles away. Crazy? Or really crazy? Your Lingyun sect broke my arm and nearly wiped out my Su Jingyuan family. I nearly went crazy during those days. It was etched in my heart. As Su Jingyuan said that, he laughed. If you want to wipe out my Su family, it is up to you. As long as you wait. Do you have such ability after today? You really thought you had one. Jun Shang is a man of great talent and strategy. He has already made plans for it. How can you all imagine it? If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Chapter 549. If you want to wipe out my Su family, it is up to you. As long as you all have such ability after today, you all really think that you have one. Jun Shang is a man of great talent and strategy. He has already made plans. How can you imagine it? Xiongyu was startled when she heard that. Plans? What plans? No matter how strong that Zhongsho was, how could he have plans to deal with the combined attacks of so many sects and escape unscathed? Following which she heard Su Jingyuan's voice filled with mocking intent. You all think that Gantian Mountain will collapse in these few days. But in my eyes, it is the time when your Donglin sects will be wiped out. Let's wait and see. 10 years of hatred. Today, it will be settled. How satisfying. How satisfying. Hearing those few words, Xiongyu nearly broke out into laughter. It seems like this Su Zhenyuan had really gone mad. His brain was totally muddled to do such a stupid thing. Sects wiped out? What a joke. However, thinking about the death of those 5,000 Dao soldiers, she couldn't laugh out loud. The 24,000-man square formations of Gantian Mountain, along with Cloud Saint City, a total of 200,000 people were suppressing over. Although their speed was slow, they were like a forest, their aura like a mountain. adjusting the formations while they were marching. Even if there were some weaknesses, they would be gone in an instant. This was the method of a master of the art of war, changing formations calmly, but also exceptionally beautiful. Without the restriction of the Tao soldiers, these Gantian mountain elites started to be unrestrained. They spread out in all directions. Xiongyu only felt a headache as she raised her head and looked into the sky. Before this, she only felt that the dark clouds came the wrong time. At this moment, she wished that it would rain earlier, following which she was stunned, only to see the clouds in the sky for some reason scatter once more. It revealed the rising sun in the distance. After being stunned for a long while, Xiongyu came back to her senses. What was this? Could it be that even the heavens wanted her to be defeated? The clouds have scattered. The heavens are really helping us. At the same time, Zhongling also raised his head and looked into the sky. His eyes were filled with a weird expression before he retracted his gaze, shaking his head and laughing. It seems like today we might be able to crush all the enemies in front of us. Following which he saw a person riding over. Looking from afar, it was most likely Cloud Saint City, Lord Su Zhengyuan. Zhongling hurriedly followed Xiu Wei and bowed. Zhongshou seemed to hold this person in high regard. Even without all this person's betrayal caused Gantian Mountain to lose tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people was worth him bowing to. Su Zhengyuan hurriedly dodged, saying that he didn't dare. Then, his eyes lit up as he asked, "How was the situation at Mount June?" He knew that although he had won here, it was not enough to decide the overall situation. The key battle was still at mysterious Cloud Mountain. As long as Zhongshou could safely retreat from there, victory would be assured. Xiu Wei shook his head and sent a message talisman to Su Zhengyuan. "I don't know the details yet. However, an hour ago, the other side had already sent back a message. The monarch led 4,000 Blood Cloud cavalry to the foot of the mysterious Cloud Mountain and raised the Blood Kill twin flags, defeating the millions of enemies of the Thousand City Alliance. Lingyun sect Cloud Dragon Iron Swordsman, Mysterious Cloud sect Qing Xian Lightning Warriors, Daoming sect Daoming Wind Warriors all collapsed without a fight and were all wiped out. At this moment, the monarch is attacking Mysterious Cloud Mountain." Su Zhengyuan was distracted. His first thought was that Xiu Wei was lying to him. However, he felt that it wasn't right. He had already betrayed them and had no way out. Why was there a need to say all this to him? He used his spiritual sense to look at the talisman. As expected, it was as Xiu Wei said. However, how was that possible? Just now, when he said that these few days would be when the Donglin sects would be wiped out, those were just words. He didn't think that it would come true. Just 4,000 Blood Cloud cavalry? To cause the elites of the various sects to collapse without a fight? What kind of joke was that? Wait, Blood Cloud cavalry. Were they the Iron Cavalry of Wulia country that ruled a world 10,000 years ago? It shouldn't be wrong. Apart from that, there was no other possibility. Not long ago, he heard Ling Shuiyan mention that Zhongshou had shocking trump cards. In this battle, they would definitely win the Donglin sects. However, as for what kind of trump cards, be it Zhongshou or Ling Shuiyan, they didn't tell him in detail. So, it was actually such an elite iron cavalry that could sweep a world. His eyes flashing, Su Zhengyuan laughed out loud. He didn't feel that Zhongshou hiding it from him was inappropriate. Such matters shouldn't be known by everyone. He felt really delighted. This time, it seemed like he was going to take revenge. He knew that Zhongshou would rule Donglin sooner or later. There would be a day when he would chase Lingyun sect out of this continent. As expected, it was even a few years earlier than he had expected. Zhongling smiled as he looked on from the side. He didn't blame Su Zhengyuan for losing his composure. An hour ago, wasn't his mood just as agitated? Even now, he still couldn't control himself. Looking at the vast army in front of him, he was filled with emotions. In the past, when he followed Zhong Weiran and started from scratch, when did he think that there would be such a day? He also remembered the day when the ruler disappeared in the Oblivion Cloud Ocean. How depressed was he and thought that Gantian Mountain was going to fall. At that time, he didn't think that Zhongsho would be able to kill his way back to Gantian Mountain and take back the Monster King position. He also didn't think that this young ruler, who no one had high hopes for, would win consecutively. Within a few months, he had regained lost land and expanded by 10,000 miles. Today, he had a chance to unify Donglin. Not long later, he would be able to establish a country and call himself king. A bright glow flashed in Zongling's eyes as he raised his head and looked into the sky. Ruler, have you seen it? Your wish to live. Junshang has already fulfilled it for you. Within Gantian Mountain City, he is loved by tens of thousands of people. Today, he is going to unify Donglin. My Gantian Mountain Sky, Fox Zong family, is also at its peak. I have nothing to worry about in my life. I am only willing to help the ruler to protect this hard-won foundation. However, we still need to wait. The ruler hasn't wiped out mysterious cloud spirit sect, which is why there are still variables. Xiaowei's expression was calm as he continued to issue out military orders. He seemed to be as calm as usual, but he didn't notice that his robes had already been torn apart by the energy that exploded from his emotions. At this moment, he suddenly felt something and looked towards the northeast. That was where mysterious cloud spirit sect was located at. That aura was so strong. It spread out for 10,000 miles and still had such strength. It seemed to be above grade 9. The moment such a thought flashed across his mind, worry appeared in the depths of Qiuwei's eyes. In the next instance, he saw that the sky in the distance was actually pitch black. Xiong Yu and Zhu Rinquang were also looking in the direction of mysterious cloud spirit sect. They exchanged glances with one another, their faces sunken. At that instant, just now, the two of them felt a wave of extremely strong palpitations in their hearts at practically the same time. Gantian Mountain Peak, within the meeting hall. At this moment, it was really noisy. Hundreds of people were gathered in the main hall, either discussing or arguing. It was really chaotic. The son of a rich family shouldn't sit in the hall. Why doesn't His Highness understand that theory? He knows that it is a trap. So why did he go to mysterious cloud spirit sect? Damn it, if the ruler was here, why would he be afraid of that Thousand City Alliance? For a Xian Mountain princess, it isn't worth it. The ruler is lustful and is also a sentimental person. It isn't appropriate. However, these Donglin sects are too despicable. Anyways, our Yuan family will go all out to fight to the death. Even if the ruler is dead, we will raise our private army to fight them. Have you thought about it? The sects are so strong. If we have no choice, do we need to be so careful? Careful what? Our race has received the kindness of the ruler for 2 lifetimes. We will naturally die for him. I am a new subject of Gantian Mountain. However, if we really want to change a city lord, I won't be willing even if I die. If it was someone else, would there be a chance for someone like me to speak? However, now that we are about to collapse, we have no choice even if we aren't willing. Damn it, this Feihai city also rebelled. I knew that these people weren't reliable. That Yueqing city lord is even more despicable. He actually wants us to surrender without a fight, even killing our officials and offering their heads to his flag. He deserves to be killed. Damn it, I will go back now and raise my private army to quell the rebellion. At most, we will go all out against them. Rimbo was really calm as he sat beside the main seat in the hall. He didn't care about the discussions in the hall. He had confidence in his heart, so naturally he could sit there like a mountain. An hour ago, the news that spread from mysterious Cloud Mountain caused his heart to calm down. Now, he just needed to wait for news of Zhong Shou defeating the sects to spread back. Although he was still a little worried in his heart, he was already thinking about how to move the grain and resources of the various lands. He would support the various armies to continue fighting. First, he would wipe out the rebels. Sweeping Donglin also needed to be done at the same time. If he didn't take what the heavens gave him, he would be punished instead. Such a long time, he definitely couldn't miss it. Things might change if he delayed, so he couldn't delay. Just as he was thinking about that, a bitter laugh rose up from the side. Prime Minister's calmness is really amazing. Gantian Mountain is on the brink of destruction, and you are still so calm. I don't have such ability. I am really restless and nervous. Rimbaud glanced over, only to see that the person who spoke was the meeting member Shushu. He was one of the leaders of the 200 human race meeting in the meeting hall. Smiling, Rimbaud didn't bother about him. Shushu asked once more, "Just now, Prime Minister received a message talisman. Did you receive any news?" His eyes were like knives as he stared over. Rimbaud hesitated slightly before shaking his head. The contents of the talisman itself weren't anything that couldn't be revealed. However, even if he said it, these people wouldn't believe him, right? Say that their ruler had already led 4,000 Blood Cloud cavalry and won at mysterious Cloud Spirit sect. The 1,026 grade 6 Tao soldiers that the sects gathered were crushed before they even showed their faces. Weren't those words just a fantasy story? These people probably didn't even know where the Blood Cloud cavalry came from. Even with his knowledge, he only knew about it after flipping through books. At this moment, 2 more golden streaks of light landed outside the hall. Rimbaud first took one of them and then smiled casually. Prime Minister Chiu has already broken through the main force of Thousand City Alliance and killed 1 million. Now he is chasing. One sentence caused the meeting hall to boil once more, following which Rimbaud grabbed the other talisman. Chapter 550. Central Cloud Continent, Imperial Capital, Fenghua Palace. The yellow-robed old man was looking at the map in front of him with his hands behind his back, his lips smiling coldly. Speaking of which, Lingyun's sect has already set up a trap in mysterious Cloud Mountain. That Zhongsho has already jumped in for his fiancée. Who knew that this Gantian mountain monster king Zhongsho was actually such an emotional person? It seems like this person really isn't someone who can achieve great things. His tone was filled with teasing. The few servants standing quietly at the side all lowered their heads, keeping silent and not daring to speak. The old man's tone changed. What does the Grand Commandant think? At this moment, there was another person sitting on a chair at the side. He had a head full of white hair, his face withered like he was getting old. However, his bones were really huge. Just sitting there, he gave off a tiger-like aura that others couldn't compare to. He didn't think too deeply before opening his mouth. 7 large sects working together to wipe out a small country. This Lingyun sect really went all out. These sects and aristocratic families don't fear the law and don't accept the heavens. They are all traitors with no ruler and no father. If it wasn't for such people, the cloud world would have been unified. Why would there be so many wars? As he said that, his tone became even colder. However, this Gantian mountain isn't much better. What unreasonable barbarians! They actually dare to detain my Taishang envoy. How bold! In my eyes, these two sides are just dogs biting each other. It isn't worth your majesty wasting effort. The yellow-robed old man frowned. What he wanted to hear wasn't this. The Grand Commandant was helpless, shaking his head in the end. Your Majesty, although those 2 large stone mines are good, sects and aristocratic families interfering in mortal world matters, we can't let them off so easily. However, my Taishang is too far away to help. 10,000 miles of travel, the risk is too huge. That's what you said. The old man sighed when he heard that. I also know that theory, but thinking about those 2 mines falling into the hands of those sects, their strength will definitely increase. The strength of these cultivators would definitely increase greatly. Just thinking about it made him very worried. Forget it. Take a look at this. As he spoke, the old man took out a memorial and placed it in front of the Grand Commandant. After the latter opened it and took a closer look, a pensive expression appeared on his face. Dragon Elephant City's Lord Yang Fan? I remember that this person is the leader of the Thousand City Alliance. I am willing to submit to the Taishang and pay tribute to your majesty. So that's how it is, humph. What a scheming person, relying on the Donglin sects to wipe out Gantian Mountain. After that, they turned around and borrowed the power of the Taishang to fight against the Soaring Cloud sect. What an ambitious person. Grand Commandant, your guess is correct. The yellow-robed elder was also smiling meaningfully. It's just that what I like the most are these ambitious people. What I want is their unwillingness to remain dormant. Grand Commandant, what do you think? That's doable. Your Majesty, please grant him the title of Lord of Donglin. That Grand Commandant nodded slightly, his eyes filled with a cold intent. After Gantian Mountain falls, the Donglin sects will turn to Longxiang Mountain and defend against them. They will also maintain the chaos in Donglin. If this person wants to succeed under the suppression of Lingyun, he will have to rely on our Taishan. Why don't we make the water more muddy? Using this person, our dynasty can interfere in Donglin matters. The Emperor-robed elder instantly laughed out loud. That's exactly what I want. Doesn't that soaring cloud sect want chaos? I want to give him the title of Lord of Donglin and let this young fan get the title. If this soaring cloud sect dares to directly interfere, I won't hesitate to send troops to take down their cloud palace. The last sentence was filled with dense, killing intent. The two of them treated it as if Zhongsho and Gantian Mountain didn't exist anymore. Leading 70,000 cavalry into the trap laid out by the sects, that small monster king had no chance of surviving. Naturally, we can't allow that soaring cloud sect to be so arrogant. That Grand Commandant nodded slightly. However, we also need to be careful of this young fan. This person is cunning and isn't easy to control. I advise your Majesty to both use and defend. Those are good words. I will take them. As he spoke, the old man concentrated on writing the two words young fan on a golden book. He was like Ire drawing silver hooks, really neat and tidy. Following which, he added a few memorials and a few pieces of paper filled with words into the book. Then he walked to the bookshelf at the side and looked at another book with the words Zhongsho on it. He couldn't help but sigh. This kid is really smart. In less than 3 years after taking over the throne, he has the strength to unify Donglin. To fall so early, it is indeed a waste. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. This kid's loss is because he doesn't know how to restrain himself and made too many enemies. Sometimes his luck isn't good. Just as he was about to take down the golden book, a sharp voice spread out from the door. Your Majesty, Grand Teacher requests an audience. The old man turned his head and saw that it was Internal Affairs Junior Supervisor Garoa. At this moment, for some reason, his face was filled with helplessness. Grand Teacher, Zhongshuan. There were a total of 3 Grand Teachers in Taishan, 1 Buddha and 2 Taoists. However, only this factionless cultivator Zhongshuan gained his trust. Yes, I am Zhongshuan, a loud voice replied from outside the door. Then a Taoist-robed middle-aged man directly walked past Garoa and barged into the reading room. His red, jujube-like face was filled with arrogance and impatience. Your Majesty, please forgive my rudeness as this matter is too urgent, which is why I forcefully barged in. The yellow-robed old man was startled, his face slowly turning serious. No worries. What is the matter for Grand Teacher to be so anxious? He knew that although this Zhongshuan's cultivation was high and he had powers that other people couldn't compare to, he was always respectful and never went out of line. For him to act like this today, there was probably something urgent. Zhongshuan's face was filled with coldness as he spat out a deep breath. An hour ago, I was observing the weather on the stargazing platform. I suddenly felt that the luck in the east was blazing, dragon energy surging and showing signs of gathering. It was like the luck of the continent had gathered on one person. Your Majesty, do you know what this means? The old man was distracted once more. He had read many Taoist books. Naturally, he knew what this meant. Dragon energy of a continent gathered on one person. Is this true dragon energy gathered? Forcing a smile, the Grand Commandant's face was filled with doubt. Could it be that the Grand Tutor saw wrongly? At this moment, Donglin Cloud Continent is in chaos. How can there be a true dragon? At the start, I thought that I saw wrongly. After confirming it, I rushed over. Looking at the Grand Commandant, Zhongshuan was filled with doubt. Actually, I don't understand. Donglin Cloud Continent doesn't have anyone who can unify it. Even if there is, with the various sects oppressing, it would be tough to form a true dragon. This matter is really incomprehensible and preposterous. The yellow-robed old man was in deep thought. Then he heard Zhongshuan speak once more. His tone was even colder. If that was the case, I wouldn't have forcefully barged into the palace. Only because I feel that the changes in Donglin Cloud Continent are closely related to our Taishan. There's a chance of prosperity and also signs of decline. I can't see clearly. How weird, how weird. When the old man and the Grand Commandant heard the words closely related, their eyes were filled with sharp, killing intent. Only until the last sentence did they calm down. However, they frowned even more. If they didn't know that this Zhongshuan was good at luck and divination, his words wouldn't be so random. They nearly thought that the Grand Teacher was playing with them. There was a chance of prosperity and also signs of decline. What did that mean? Coincidentally, at this moment, a purple gold talisman landed from the distance and stopped at the side of the room. The yellow-robed old man acknowledged and took the talisman. Moments later, his face was alternating between green and white. Who knows how long passed before he came to his senses, only to see Zhongshuan and the Grand Commandant look over in confusion. The old man frowned. Without batting an eyelid, he ignited the message talisman and burned it to ashes. Then he said expressionlessly, "It is news from Donglin Cloud Continent." Gantian Sky Zhongshuo had already restored the Blood Cloud cavalry from the ancient times. He also used the pinnacle space dome formation of Fulling Sect to lock down 100 miles around mysterious Cloud Mountain, using just 4,000 people to crush millions of troops under mysterious Cloud Mountain. Now, he is using the Bloodkill twin flags to trample over mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect. The hall instantly fell into a deathly silence. Only under the Grand Commandant's seat there was a loud cracking sound. The chair under the table was totally smashed into pieces. His pupils constricted into a pin shape. Blood Cloud Cavalry? Wulia Country's Blood Cloud Cavalry? That Gantian Mountain actually had 4,000? All of a sudden, numerous questions surged into his head. Where did Gantian Mountain find so many martial ancestors? Where did they get the Blood Cloud Cavalry armor? That Blood Cavalry Kill Heart technique was even more impossible to find. Zhongshuan's eyes were filled with understanding. However, there was more bitterness. He finally understood why the luck of a continent would gather on one person. Why Donglin Cloud Continent could gather true dragon energy. So that was the case. No wonder there would be such a change in the weather. Using the pinnacle space dome formation to lock down. That monster King His Highness wants to wipe us all out. With a soft sigh, Jinren Zhongshuan bowed slightly. Your Majesty, I advise you, before our Taishang has Dao soldiers to be able to go up against the Blood Cloud Cavalry, we can't be enemies with Gantian Mountain. 4,000 Blood Cloud troops are enough to go up against the current Haoshuan sect. The emperor-robed old man kept silent and didn't speak. His eyes were filled with fear, shock, envy, and also a little bit of fear. Just as he was in deep thought, he suddenly had an idea as he looked into the distance. He only felt a weird spiritual energy fluctuation spread over from the horizon. Even though they were tens of thousands of miles away, he still felt his heart palpitate. Grand Teacher, what kind of omen is this? Zhongshuan frowned and then sighed. A God Realm expert fell on mysterious Cloud Mountain. If I am right, it should be the third-generation ancestor of mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect. Even for someone like him, he was merely a deity cultivator. The yellow-robed old man didn't hesitate, smashing the golden book with Yangfan's name into pieces. Then he moved the name Zhongshuo to the front, directly inserting it into the third position. What is Zhongshuo? Looking at this Yangfan, trying to scheme against such a person, what a joke. He was simply like a clown. Chapter 551. Gantian Mountain Peak. When a message within the talisman was all transmitted into his brain, Rinbo was stunned. Rimbaud only felt like his brain was about to explode. It was totally blank. After being a loss for a moment, a wave of wild joy surged out from his chest. After the joy, his emotions surged and he nearly fainted on the spot. Looking around, only to see that within the hall, including Shushu, everyone had calmed down. They suppressed the joy they felt after hearing about Qiu Wei's victory, looking over with questioning gazes. Rimbaud took in a deep breath and knew that he had to say these words in the end. However, he only felt that his voice was really tough. Mysterious Cloud Mountain has news that the ruler has broken the 3 million troops of Thousand City Alliance. He led 4,000 cavalry to trample over Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect. The entire sect, from top to bottom, was massacred. No one was lucky enough to survive. Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect's third-generation ancestor, Shunshao, has fallen in the hands of the ruler. The meeting hall was deathly silent. Everyone was stunned, startled, not knowing what to do. Those who reacted looked at Rimbaud like they were looking at a crazy person. They thought to themselves that this old prime minister was hit too hard by the news and lost his mind? Or perhaps he had taken his fantasy as reality, defeating the 3 million troops of Thousand City Alliance. With Zhong Yuan's unparalleled general talents, it was barely reliable. But trampling over Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect? That's hilarious. Even if he wanted to calm the hearts of everyone, he didn't need to think of such preposterous news. His chest became colder and colder. What Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect sent back probably wasn't good news. Rimbaud's emotions had already calmed down, shaking his head and his heart. As expected, he knew that the outcome would be like this. After sighing, Rimbaud stood up. He didn't have the heart to explain anymore and was lazy to bother about these people. He was distracted, his footsteps unsteady as he walked out of the hall. At this moment, it was dawn and the sun was rising up in the sky. It was a golden glow, extremely bright and eye-catching. Rimbaud's body stopped once more as he looked at the sun in a daze. Victory! It was a huge victory. Donglin Cloud Continent could finally be unified today. In the past, a scholar with nowhere to go had become the ruler of a country. Fate was truly mystical. It seems like the day when Gantian Mountain was truly established wasn't far away. Old friend, oh old friend, you've already fulfilled your promise to me back then. Unfortunately, you're no longer here. However, you're a tiger father and tiger son. The ruler's talent and strategy are not weaker than yours. In just 2 short years, the Eastern Lin Kingdom had reached such a stage and even destroyed the higher cloud realm. He remembered that the third-generation ancestor of the Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect was at the peak of the God Realm. To actually die in Jun Shang's hands, truly inconceivable. All of a sudden, Su Shu's voice sounded out once more. Prime Minister, I wonder if what you said just now is true or false. Rimbaud was awakened once again, and then he laughed at himself. You probably don't believe me, but do you think that I, Rimbaud, have gone crazy? Or was he just trying to bluff them? When did my, Rimbaud's, reputation become such a mess? Have you ever seen me, Rimbaud, say anything untrue? Su Shu's face turned slightly red as he cursed out in his heart. What untrue words? He remembered that the last few times this old man tried to bluff the ruler. When he took out money from his bag, he didn't even blink. His face was as thick as a city wall. However, in his heart, there was a trace of joy. He knew that since Rimbaud said that, then there was a 60% chance that the news was true. The other 40% was because he didn't trust the character of this old man. People who were in politics weren't honest people. For example, he himself would occasionally play some small tricks. I'm too lazy to explain to all of you. At most, there will be news from the Mysterious Cloud Spirit Sect in 2 to 4 hours. What's the point of lying to all of you now? Turning around, he glanced into the hall. The corner of Rimbaud's lips was filled with a cold disdain. Even if there are people like you who are so skilled and well-informed, it seems like it won't take 4 hours. Probably in 7 to 8 minutes, there will be news. My Gantian Mountain is about to unify Donglin. As he said that, Rimbaud suddenly stopped. Then, he didn't say a word as he swiftly headed down the mountain. He was really old and muddle-headed. At this moment, it was time for Gantian Mountain to go all out and attack. They needed to expand the army. They needed grain, equipment, and pills to support them. They also needed envoys to move out. It wasn't to persuade. There was no one in the Donglin continent who had the right to persuade Gantian Mountain. It was purely to force those cities to submit. If they didn't submit, they would die. There was also the rebellion. Those 20-odd rebel cities also needed people to deal with them. All of this needed him to be in charge of the city. So where would he have the time to talk nonsense with these people? Just at this moment, Rinbo received a message talisman. He originally thought that it was from the mysterious cloud spirits sect, but after reading it, he burst out laughing. The snow lion race seems to be unstable. There are signs of rebellion. This is the 28th one. These clowns are really looking for their own deaths. It was originally really bad news, but at this moment, it couldn't shake his heart realm at all. Instead, he felt that it was really amusing. He didn't understand why Zhongsho would bring the snow lion race out from under the cloud ocean and even give them cities and land. He was really too generous. Now it seems like they were really ambitious and ungrateful people. Behind Rinbo, Shushu frowned and didn't say a word. He was really unable to deduce whether or not the old man's words were true or false. The news was preposterous and too unexpected. It was pretty much like a fantasy story. One couldn't believe it. However, in his heart, for some reason, he started to believe it. Speaking of which, their Gantian Mountain was about to unify the Donglin continent. The moment such a thought rose up, dozens of golden lights flew over from the distance. 2 of them belonged to him. He casually reached out and swept them all into his sleeves. Before Shushu was able to take a close look, he heard exclamations from the meeting hall behind him. It is true. Prime Minister Ren didn't lie to us. The ruler crushed the 3 million troops of the Thousand City Alliance on Mysterious Cloud Mountain. Today, he has stepped on Mysterious Cloud Mountain. Blood Cloud Cavalry? Where did such Dao soldiers come from? They're actually so strong? Using the Pinnacle Space Dome formation to lock down 100 miles. The entire sect was wiped out. None of the Donglin sect cultivators were able to escape. It seems like His Highness had planned this long ago. Huh, what a joke, what a joke. The Donglin sects schemed to plot against the ruler, but who knew that they would fall into his trap? 10,000 cultivators all fell on the peak of Mysterious Cloud Mountain. Good death, I am so happy. That Shunshao Jiren really fell on the peak of Mysterious Cloud Mountain. How preposterous. What is there to be surprised about? Blood Cloud Cavalry, I have heard of them before. 10,000 years ago, during the Wuya country era, they were invincible. 30,000 cavalry wiped out sects, and who knows how many God Realm and Celestial Realm cultivators they killed. You all are really ignorant. When you go back and flip through books, you will naturally know. If there were 4,000 Blood Cloud Cavalry, then it wouldn't be just Donglin Cloud Continent. It would be okay for them to sweep a world. Even those shrines and sects wouldn't dare to be disrespectful to our Gantian Mountain. Within the hall, there was the sound of people sucking in breaths. Then there was a round of discussion. Is that really the case? It is probably false words. Those words are too exaggerated. I seem to have heard of this Blood Cloud Cavalry before. It seems like I really need to go back and flip through books. Shushu, who was standing outside, had a flash in his eyes. Then his lips curled up. Blood Cloud Cavalry? So that was the case. Jun Shang really hid it from him so bitterly, he didn't bother to look at the 2 message talismans as he walked down the mountain. What was fake couldn't be real, and what was real couldn't be fake. It seemed like they had really won this battle. It was a huge victory. His heart totally calmed down. Looking at the rising sun, he couldn't help but feel a huge sense of ambition. He was also slightly curious. Who knows what level a person like the ruler would reach in the future? Just as he walked out tens of steps, he saw dozens of people overtake him. At a glance, he saw that they were all the people who had been listening in the meeting hall. At this moment, they were all eager to run down the mountain. Shushu shook his head and roughly guessed what was going on. As expected, moments later, when he was about to walk to the foot of the mountain, he heard the entire city cheering like thunder. It shook the entire city. Beside his ears were the joyous discussions of the guards on duty. We won. We really won. The ruler won at Mysterious Cloud Mountain. They said that he had already wiped out the entire Mysterious Cloud Spirit sect. These guards whose cultivations weren't at Xiantian didn't know how strong and domineering Mysterious Cloud Spirit sect was in Donglin in the past. However, their words were still filled with joy. That Xiongyu also lost. What a joke. That woman always wanted to go against the ruler. To want to regain lost land. What a dream. She still calls herself Princess Xianyu, a master of the art of war. What west of Donglin, apart from the military and General Zhong Yuan, she is the best at using troops. Didn't she still lose to Imperial Pillar Chiu? 20 million were crushed by Imperial Pillar Great General's million men. One can see that she doesn't live up to her name. I heard that the ruler planned ahead to instigate that Cloud Saint City Lord to rebel. He rebelled, which was why the Thousand City Alliance was defeated. Have you heard? The ruler's strength on Mysterious Cloud Mountain? Lightning wings 30,000 feet. Each step he took, he would slay a Grey 9. I think that the ruler is definitely the Celestial Emperor descending. Luckily, our Gantian mountain is protected. Now we can finally be at ease. Heh, brothers, are you all willing to go to Fragrance City to enjoy tonight? Shushu was delighted. Ever since Zhong Shou sealed up 10-mile Fragrance Town, he moved all the brothels, as well as some merchants, to the Acropolis 5 kilometers away, which gave it the name of Fragrance City. Thinking about that, he was slightly tempted. You still have the mood to enjoy now? At this moment, we will sweep the Cloud Continent. It is the time to make contributions. What we should be worried about is not being chosen to enter the army. That's right. Remember, there are still those rebels. It isn't the time for peace. Those people are indeed despicable. It seems like the ruler didn't kill enough people a few years ago. Shushu smiled and continued forwards. He didn't listen anymore, humming a tune in his mouth. He was really at ease. The situation was already set. Some small ants would be crushed with a wave of his hand. What was there to worry about? To be continued. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.